is not a close question or a decision.
Take a look here. We asked people whether they have a favorable view of the candidate or not. Before the debate, Walz was at a plus 14. So if you take his favorable minus his unfavorable, he was at a positive 14. After the debate, he's at plus 37. And look at Vance. He did a ton of progress on his favorable ratings. We know he's been one of the most unpopular vice presidential picks out of the gate. But look at the good he did himself here. He went from a minus 22 favorable rating before the debate with this group of debate watchers to a minus 3. But again, this group of debate watchers is about 5 percentage points more Democratic overall than an overall registered voter population would be.
Well, that was some of the analysis following the vice presidential debate of the 2024 election cycle, of course, between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz. Real quick, before I get to some more of the analysis, very curious what you thought of what we just watched, John.
I mean, I think there's a lot of different things that you can hope to accomplish from a debate. The top line thing that a lot of people focus on is who won. But what does that even mean? You can mean a lot of different things by who won. I think across most of the answers, last night, and I said I would give a narrow win to J.D. Vance. But one thing you can do, and honestly, to the individual candidate long term might be the most important part, is how does it change people's opinion of you? Either in that clip, they were talking about sort of raw favorability, and then they also tracked, do you think that this person is qualified to be president if necessary? Changing those numbers might not immediately change the overall polling numbers for the presidency, but they can also, but it still can be a very important thing long term for the candidate.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. So let's get into some more of the polling and what voters were saying after the VP debate. So when you look at the post-debate polls, voters seem kind of split, actually, on who did better, whose performance was better, suggesting that Americans actually came away with kind of liking both politicians, which is surprising. And look, before I get into the details and the numbers, I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that it was a breath of fresh air to see two individuals who disagree with one another act like adults, you know what I mean? And not like immediately devolve into ridiculous, childish name calling and stuff like that. So I think that the debate was much more substantive than what we got in the presidential debate. And I think we know why. We know what the common, the lowest common denominator was in the presidential debate. Now, with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about what the polls are saying about the VP debate. According to a poll conducted by CBS and YouGov, 42% of viewers said that Vance won the debate versus 41% who said Walz was the winner. 17% of viewers said the debate was a tie. So, I mean, that's pretty much everyone seems to think it was a tie. Like the outcome seems to have been a tie.
The entire political system is a tie. They've been 49-51 for 36 years.
Okay.
Long before I was old enough to vote,
Then you have CNN's poll resulted in a very similar result, with 51% of viewers hailing Vance as the winner versus 49% for Walz. Walz's performance fell short of viewer expectations, as 54% had predicted a Walz victory before the debate versus just 45% for Vance. It's interesting that the prediction prior to the VP debate was that Walz was going to win. And I say that's interesting because, I obviously prefer Walz, and I think Walz is a more likable person overall. But I also know that J.D. Vance can come across as polished, prepared. I disagree with J.D. Vance on a lot of things. But in terms of optics and the way he presents himself, I had a feeling that he was going to do well. Right? Like his performance was going to be okay. Asked who won Tuesday's debate, voters were split 50-50 over whether it was J.D. Vance or Tim Walz, according to a Politico focal data snap poll of likely voters. So it was like essentially a tie, right? Yeah. And also keep in mind, and I think you said this last night, John, as we were covering the debate live, I don't think VP debates really move the needle in the election. The only thing that the VP debates can do is cause a lot of harm, right? So the advice going in is do no harm, just don't blow it and everything will be okay. And I think mission accomplished for both of the candidates. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that there were, a couple of moments that maybe could break through as examples of doing some harm. I mean, there's the possibility that the refusing to answer who won the 2020 election was a moment, and by itself isn't devastating. But like Vance was asked about it today, and he once again refused to answer. So he's now creating a thing that every reporter is going to feel like, well, I got to be the latest one to ask him. And if it just becomes this ongoing thing where he refuses to acknowledge reality, then that looks really bad for him. There could be a similar thing maybe for Tim Walz, like questions about the Tiananmen Square thing. That was a really awkward moment. And I saw like one op-ed that was saying like the idea that we had before Tim Walz became the VP, that he's this like media marvel, like this is kind of it's creating a few cracks in that. Maybe it was just that at that time on those outlets he was doing well. Maybe he's not the perfect political communicator. Again, some of these early evaluations coming out of the debate I think might go a bit too far. But yeah, I think overall it's unlikely to change much. They rarely do, and the strategies that both of the candidates were pursuing was very safe. To your point earlier about people expecting that Walz would win, I think like Brett. I talked to Brett earlier, and he said JD Vance is an Ivy League trained lawyer. He damn well better win a debate, which I think is a good point. Like that's what they're trained to do. But I think if you assumed, and I assumed that Walz might win, it's not necessarily because I think Walz is a great debater. Famously, when he was chosen, he said he's not a good debater. It was more that there's a lot of material you could use against Vance. You could bring up the childless cat ladies and the raising taxes on people without kids and all on and on and on the crazy things that he said. But the strategy was so safe that Walz didn't really do that. And there was also the chance that Vance Trump might have told him, like, you got to say Haitians are eating cats. Like, you got to say this crazy thing. And that the strategy wasn't like that. So I think there was some, like, meta-contextual things that led people to think Walz could win beyond just Walz is a great debater.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, CBS also spoke to some of the voters in Michigan after the debate. And let's take a look at what they had to say. I'll give you information about where they lean politically after we watch. Take a look.
Raise your hand if you feel like Senator J.D. Vance won this debate. And then 2 people feel like Governor Walz won the debate. So you said that you felt like J.D. Vance articulated his arguments the best. Bill, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, he was a very smooth.
Very smooth talker.
Yes, he was.
Eric, what about you? I know you said you felt.
Yeah, I also agree that J.D. Vance, I think, was a smooth talker. The thing that I appreciated about Governor Walz is that I felt like he did answer more of the questions, like with data points and like with evidence. So I appreciated that perspective.
Okay, so when it comes to this particular panel, and by the way, like obviously this is all anecdotal, right? That's not a poll, that's not a representative sample of voters, but still it's interesting to hear actual voters and what their thoughts were, like ordinary people and what their thoughts were after the debate. And so this panel had Republicans and Democrats in it, but leaned slightly conservative. 2 had already decided that they were gonna vote for Harris, 2 decided they're gonna vote for Trump, and 1 was a Republican debating whether or not to vote, and 1 was an undecided Nikki Haley supporter. So thoughts on what you heard from the voters in that clip, John?
Yeah, I think you're totally right that it's just anecdotal, but it is supposed to give us a window into what regular people are like of a variety of sorts. And I think that those 2 answers we saw are like exactly what those groups of people are supposed to feel. Like maybe someone who's a little bit more, like favorable towards the Republicans is just supposed to come out and be like, yeah, that was smooth. Like, and they may not say it, but what they mean is in comparison to Donald Trump. They're not supposed to come away from Vance like, I'm glad that he talked about the app at the board. Like, they're supposed to just get an impression that, oh, he's impressive, I guess. And, a lot of voters it's not that difficult to get them to have that impression. A lot of them think that Trump is impressive. So it was just supposed to be like, it's a vibe that you're trying to get them to think of. And then with the second guy that answered, like there are the voters that are perhaps like, that they're a little bit more focused on the wonky stuff. And you want to, deliver your message strongly, but also make clear that, you're following the science or whatever. Like, I think that the 2 sides, like that's exactly who they're trying to appeal to. So it's fascinating that those are the 2 that were chosen in the focus group to actually respond.
Yeah. Look, NBC News did something similar. They took some time to speak with ordinary voters, a similar group of Pennsylvania voters in this case. But they actually did not agree that Vance won the debate.
To be clear, some of you had made up your minds going into the debate. We had two really very much pro-Harris. You were probably for Harris. You guys were you were more unsure. And then we had two people who were really considering Donald Trump, including Brian. And Brian, I want to go to you because it's been fascinating to get your read on what happened tonight.
Are you crazy?
It seemed like you went in sort of wanting to like J.D. Vance and thinking about Trump.
If you were going to say who won tonight, I would say that Tim Walz won.
I wonder, would everybody say that Walz won this debate? A show of hands. No pressure. Okay. Not sure, Claire. Claire, you win.
I don't know what it means to win a debate.
Yeah, I don't know either.
You know what? My favorite person in this entire
Clara.
story is that very last woman
Clara.
who said, yeah, what does it even mean
What does
to
it
win the
mean
debate?
to win a debate?
Look, I think that your own personal biases usually play a role, right? Like whether you want to admit it or not, you know, you're going to want to root for your preferred candidate, but also how do we measure it, right? Like I think looking at the polling can measure it, but also what kind of impact is it really going to have on the election? Like that's the part that really stands out to me because we get all excited about the debates. We put a lot of weight behind it. But overall, I don't think debates really move the needle that much. They could cause a lot of harm to a candidate, as we learned with Biden, obviously. But in the end, I a lot of people judge based on vibes. I think confidence really matters. Tim Walz being nervous in the very beginning of the VP debate wasn't great, but he loosened up, and then by the end, he was freaking killing it. So those are my thoughts, you know. And at the end of the day, the VP really doesn't do anything. The only time the VP becomes relevant is if something happens to the president. But overall, it was a perfectly fine debate. I like that it was civil. I like that it was a little bit boring. And
23
I want boring, substantive debates.
Yeah, I would like a little bit less lying, but I like those two things that you talked about. And to how much the VP matters, we learned that the VP only matters if something happens to the president, as you said. And what happens to the president could be literally that he's not running anymore, and now the VP is, and suddenly the VP was always in charge of everything. And obviously not a single one of these Republicans thinks that, but it's convenient, I guess, to pretend.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about that equation, then the VP for Trump matters way more. I mean, Trump's up there in age. You never know. He seems healthy, but you never know. He's up there in age. Let's just put it that way. And so the possibility of J.D. Vance.
Yeah, J.D. Vance is an interesting choice because we might get stuck with him. If Trump gets shot, he's been shot at twice. If Trump gets shot, we're stuck with J.D. Vance. And that guy, he's never held office.
Taking his place.
Just like Trump. And you saw what happened when a man who's never held office took over our highest office in the land. A disaster. We had COVID. We lost 1 million people. And I'm sorry, but I don't think it's this guy.
God forbid something happens to Trump is a reality. It's a possibility. So something to keep in mind.
Well, yeah, and bear in mind, he'll be keeping in mind, J.D. Vance, I'm sure, would like to become the VP right now and then run in 4 years and win or whatever. That's best case scenario for J.D. Vance. Well, all of that happening and his wife not leaving him for all that he's revealed of himself since he became VP nominee. That's the best case scenario. But another perfectly fine scenario is Trump loses. And in 4 years, he runs, you know, and wins then. Like, he's young. He's like 40 years old or whatever. Like, he's got plenty of time in a cycle or two to run. And one of the ways that you set that up is by appearing to have had a good debate. People will remember that to some extent 4 years later. And so this could be good for him either way.
Honestly, my personal opinion is that J.D. Vance's chances of having a smooth presidential run are greatly enhanced if Trump loses. The reason why I say that is because, look, we know how Trump is, and we know that he demands extreme loyalty. And by the way, as someone who scores high in loyalty when it comes to moral intuitions, like, he goes too far for me, like way too far, right? Like he wants people to support him even when he's doing really terrible things that are harmful to them. And so there's some chance that if Trump were to win and if, JD Vance is his VP, like, is he going to nod his head and go along with everything that Trump wants? He might. That could either get him in a lot of trouble, potentially with the law if things play out the way they did in Trump's first term, or he will push back against Trump. And we all know what happens when, cabinet members decide not to go along with everything Trump wants. So I don't know if JD Vance is really like engaging in this like cynical ploy to eventually make his way to the White House. I think his chances are greater if he and Donald Trump lose in this election cycle. The new polling suggests that Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are deadlocked in literally every single battleground state, meaning this race continues to be an extremely tight one. Now, the Cook Political Report, which does surveys with their swing state project, shows that Harris polls between 1 and 3 points ahead in 5 of these swing states, which is easily in the margin of error. And in a 6th state, North Carolina, Harris and Trump were exactly tied. Now, Harris leads Trump in Michigan by 3 percentage points, and she also leads by 1 or 2 points in Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, where she's actually holding a rally with the Cheneys today. Trump is leading by 2 percentage points head-to-head in Georgia. But she is, well, let's check it and see if she's doing any better than Biden. According to this particular poll, in the May survey that they had done, when President Joe Biden was still in the race, Trump led in 6 states and tied in Wisconsin. And so Kamala Harris is, in fact, according to this poll, performing better than Biden was. And so that's good news, but it's not good news when you consider how tight this race is. And every strategy that we've seen from Democrats to hurt Trump and help get Kamala Harris elected doesn't really seem to be working. Cenk did a live video yesterday on the special counsel's indictment into Donald Trump. They unsealed that indictment, and now we have additional details about what Trump is accused of doing in order to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. I don't know if that's even going to make a dent at this point, but it just seems like nothing's working. And I think Democrats need to look inward and figure out what is it about our party that makes voters not trust us, not want to vote for us, and consider someone like Donald Trump instead.
Yeah. So great point. I mean, look, I'm both mystified by this and totally get it at the same time. But we at least know the base of knowledge, and you know the base of knowledge as to why these phenomena are happening. People in mainstream media have no idea, and they're constantly like, I don't understand. And it's because the American people don't like the establishment. They don't like the powerful. They feel like they're being oppressed
or rich
by big business, big government,
yeah,
etc.
it's fucking terrible. It's terrible. I can't wait till it ends. We are going to have a golden age, the likes of which mankind has never had before, when the rich people stop being fucking greedy and they understand that it's all good for nothing when you're fucking 100 years old anyways. And they just let it go and stop fucking stuffing their bank accounts so they can sit around fucking crazy McMansions and lord it over people and all this. We'll do better. Like, if everybody has enough, we'll do better.
That's not a hard concept to understand, because it's in every single poll. But they read those polls and can't see them. They're blinded by their own bias.
Yeah, they're fucking
because they're in the establishment. Yeah. It's like the Israelis can't see that they're the ones that just killed 41,000 people in Gaza, that they are the much more powerful force, and they have a right to exist. They are existing, and the Palestinians have no right to exist because of Israel. But they can't see any of that, even though it's obvious to the rest of the world, because they're blinded by their bias. Democrats couldn't see that Joe Biden was too old. That's amazing, right? They just can't see reality. Now, the part that I'm mystified by is, I mean, there's a billion things about Trump that's wrong, right? Well, we do TrumpBrackets.com, where we had hundreds of submissions, 64 gigantic ones, etc. But there's 2 things that stand out so much. After he lost the election, not only did he do a fake elector scheme to organize a coup against America, but he said it. He said we should terminate the Constitution. All rules, regulations, and articles in the Constitution should be terminated so that Trump could be president. Okay, and then the second thing is, now this new motion shows a second source saying, hey, Mr. President, they're trying to kill your vice president. Mike Pence's life is in danger because your fans are trying to kill him. And he said, quote, so what? And he told Mark Meadows, I think he deserves it. So,
you know, it is incredible, because you would think that news like that and details like that would change the minds of a lot of voters who currently support Donald Trump. But you also have to think about what is impacting Americans day to day, right? So when you think about protecting democracy, I think for a lot of people, you know, they might think, well, the media is being hyperbolic about this. Remember, there's a lack of trust toward the media. So the source where the information is coming from might not be a source that they trust. But also think about what Americans are affected by day to day. And that's what their priorities are going to be when it comes to choosing the politician that they want to represent them and their interests. And look, I made this point yesterday, but I'm going to make it again, because I was listening to some news about Donald Trump's speeches and recent rallies. And look, one thing that's clear about Trump is he's simplistic in what he says, and he's repetitive. And so what he keeps repeating in every single rally, no tax on tips, no tax on tips, no tax on tips, in an economy which is essentially a service economy where the majority of workers work in the service industry.
Hey, we won't rob you for being lower class and working in the fucking the service industry anymore. It's like, hey, thanks. Yeah, I'll vote for you because you're not going to rob me anymore. It's like, come on, man.
That is a big deal. And when you look at Kamala Harris, you know, she has put out some...
And so he finally has a policy beyond that wall. And his policy is to make sure that the government doesn't rob waiters. Because it's about as little that could do with running the country as they could possibly make it. So it's the stand that he can make, you know? Because if he mentions, like, cut taxes for the poor people, the rich people will go crazy. And if he says cut taxes for the rich, the poor people will go crazy. As in the centrists, you know, he'll probably lose the centrists. And so it's sort of weird. It's just weird, this weird thing that they do, this dance that they do where they can't tell you what they want.
Statements about
it's really weird. They just, like, lie all the time and they can't tell you what they want. And they've all got imposter syndrome. Because they're imposters.
Agenda would be what kind of policies she would pursue, but it's not as simplistic. It's a lot more nebulous, if that makes any sense. And it's hard for people to take it and kind of think about how it would be applied to their personal life and how it would improve their personal life. You get what I'm saying?
Of course. Look, there's 100 ways to be a populist that are so easy. I mean, when you talk about housing, her plans on housing aren't bad, but if she went on the stump and said, this is exactly how private equity buys up your houses and then turns you into renters and steals the value of your homes from you, she would be the most popular politician in America
in
by
American
a landslide,
history.
Right? But private equity funds her campaign.
So, and this is an example why I don't like the Democrats. Every single time that they're helping you, it's because it's a shill. It's a shill. Some kind of shill for some other fucking corporate interest. The Democrats are more for sale than the Republicans are. That's something I like about the Republicans. They're way less for sale. Way less for sale. Like, they won't, most of them are racist, so they definitely will not sell out to people of other races. They just won't do it. It, like, excludes them from a lot of clubs and all this crazy stuff, right? And I don't know, not all of them are racist, but I'm just saying, like, a bunch of them are kind of deep racist, though, a little bit. A bunch of them are. Not all of them at all, but a bunch of them are sort of deep racist, and so this excludes them from a bunch of clubs, like the CFR. Trump could never, ever be in the CFR because, you know, it's just weird. It's a multinational corporation of government officials who pretty much run the world, and they're from all over the world. So of course there's Chinese and Jew people and Jewish people and Russian people in there, and it's fine, you know. But this is something that the average white man probably doesn't actually like that much when he sees the people of other color in really high positions. He feels threatened, I think.
fund Trump's campaign, so they've neutralized both candidates, and that
or something. Because every time I heard Trump talk about anything but that wall, he was like, "Fuck China, fuck Russia, fuck Mexico." That's it. That like this country wasn't full of Russian, Chinese, and Mexicans. This country is full of Russians and Chinese and Mexicans. Why would you be this stupid?
Are not telling you the real story.
We're full of them. Probably more so than white people. We're full of those three races. We're full of it. We are Russian, Chinese. I mean, Americans are Russian, Chinese, Mexican people. That's like who we are. It's weird to go off on some fucking like tangent after them like they're the enemy or something like that. When we are them, we are the world's child. We are them. That's like getting mad at yourself for being white or something like that. I don't like white people, but I'll never get mad at myself for being white because I'm not going to get mad at myself for being the color of my own skin. I can't help that. I didn't do anything about that. So like, so it's weird. So I'm never going to hate myself for being white. But in this same vein, I'll never dislike anybody else for not being white, because it's just one more thing that God rolls in the fucking crazy 20-sided die that is energy in the universe or whatever you want to call it. Many different things. Whatever, there's many different names for what you want to call it. I like Mother Nature, I think, the best. So Mother Nature decrees this stuff more than we do. And it's sort of weird. It's like weird this desire that they had to alienate.
This is exactly how
alienate these people. And the Democrats, every single time that they show up and they want something, you can tell they've been shilled. They've been shilled by conglomerates or some kind of political party or a lobby or something. Not shilled, but they've been co-opted. They've sold something in a bill or something like that so they can get something else. And they make so many deals over the top of so many deals that they lose track of what they were even dealing on, I think, sometimes. And this is not productive. It's not really productive to a government.
Equity buys up your houses and then turns you into renters and steals.
So I never finished that interesting little mental masturbation thing that I had about what happens if the aliens land at Area 52, fly south to Mexico City, and then they give Mexico, say, the theory on how to create perpetual motion, so that Mexico is just not poor anymore ever again. They see the poverty, and the aliens see the poverty. I want to write a book about like this. The aliens see the poverty in Mexico, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to do something for you because, we landed in Area 52, and the only cool guy in the fucking landing party was a Mexican. The only guy that Klongar here liked was a Mexican. All the rest of the guys scared him. And so here we are, and we like Mexicans because Klongar the alien likes Mexicans because the only guy in the landing party. Remember in that stupid movie Men in Black when they're like at the landing party for Area 52, and they start making funny they start making fun of the names of everything and everything. It's just kind of funny, and so yeah, we're at that meeting, right? And the only cool guy at the only cool guy at the Area 52 landing party is the Mexican guard, they pay like a third of the money that everybody else in the white military gets or whatever. They have like the poor Mexican guard who gets, and it's not funny, it's just true. So the first thing that the alien asks the Mexican, he's like, "What's your job?" And the Mexican says probably either security or security or janitor or something like this. And the alien's like, "Oh, well, what's that for?" And they're like, "Well, there's all the secrets here, so I clean the secrets or I guard the secrets, one or the other," right? And the alien's like, "Well, why would you work in a really crazy scientific governmental lab and not be a really crazy governmental scientist?" And the Mexican's like, "Well, white people seem to have something about capitalism and they pay us less." And the alien's like, what? And it's like, yeah, so my country's poor, and this money, they pay me. See this guy standing next to me, right? And the alien's got a translator, and he's having a free conversation with the Mexican, and the other humans can't understand what they're saying or whatever, right? And the Mexican's like, yeah, you see this white dude here? He makes triple the amount of money that I make. And the alien's like, are you serious, bro? We get our first serious bro at Area 52. The alien's like, are you serious, bro? And the Mexican's like, yeah, they pay me like a third of what this guy standing next to me makes. And the alien's like, so what's that thing on your waist? And the Mexican guard is like, oh, it's a gun. It kills people. And the alien's like, are you going to kill me? And the Mexican's like, fuck no, I love aliens. I'm here at Area 52 because I love aliens, and I'm here to learn about aliens. And the alien's like, cool. So what about these other guys? And he's like, they might kill you. Swear to God. So an alien, a Mexican, and the white military walk into Area 52. In this weird, what's the word for this? It's mental masturbation. In this weird hypothetical situation, right? Area 52 happens. The aliens land there. They fly south to Mexico City because when they meet a Mexican guard at Area 52 who's a badass, and the alien is just can't really understand why the Mexican's being paid less and treated worse. So he's like, well, where do you live? And the Mexican's like, well, I live here. I'm an American. I've lived here all of my life, but my family lives, like 500 miles south or whatever. And the Mexicans and the alien's like, well, okay, well, take me to your family. The only reason I know storylines like this is I used to read like stuff like My Teacher Flunked the Planet, like scholastic reading and stuff when I was a kid and all this. And there was a really good theme like this called My Teacher Flunked the Planet, where the alien shows up and he sees humanity for the pieces of fucking corrupt political fucking like homophobic racist pieces of shit that they are. But his main problem is that we proliferate in nuclear war, and he's scared that we're going to blow up the universe with some kind of reverse backwards bomb or something like that. We're going to like turn the fabric of the universe into a spinning fabric that eventually kills the universe and everything around us, including the aliens, right? So the aliens show, this is literally how the book's written. This by Bruce Covell. It's called My Teacher Flunked the Planet. It's like the greatest set of kids books ever written, short of, I don't know, Narnia or something like that. It is so good. And the alien shows up, and his name is Broxholm, and he's like, yeah, I'm here from the Intergalactic Council because they have like nuclear alarms, and they don't care about nukes, but they just have nuclear alarms that tell them when a race or or not a race, but a genus of some kind of life on a planet has become nuclear capable. We have alarms in the universe that go off, that kind of like giant spaceship alarms that you would have like a smoke alarm in a house or something like that. We have. And this is literally how this book is written. This is how this author was so good. And it's like, yeah, we have this alarm that warns us when you become nuclear capable. And then we have a bigger alarm that forces all of the Intergalactic Council to summon down on the planet when you start trying to use the nukes against each other. Because that means that you could basically space rotation bomb the planet, and the planet becomes the fuel for the bomb, and the bomb tears apart all of existence. And this is why the aliens show up. This is literally the storyline in that book. It was such a good fucking kid series. It really blew my mind when I was a kid. I was like, yeah, what could stop any of this from actually happening? I don't believe in aliens, but I don't really see why things can't do interdimensional travel. We travel all the time. We travel across this world all the time. What's the difference between the world and the universe? I don't really see one. So in this mental masturbation like joke thing that I have here, that's incredibly racist against Mexicans and incredibly disingenuous and sort of disloyal to the American government. It's like, so not only is it racist, but it's seditious. But I love Mexicans and I hate the government. I love Mexicans more than the government. I like Mexicans more than Trump. I like Mexicans more than the Republican Party. I mean, I'll just go on here anyways. So So the alien is like, well, you guys kind of like about 50 years ago, you kind of blew up and it took us 50 years to get here, but about 50 years ago, you blew each other up with nuclear bombs, and that sets off a red alarm to every sentient race in the entire fucking like existence. Not just this universe, but other universes. He's like, you have pissed off every living fucking sentient race in existence. And he tells this to a I think he's like a 12-year-old boy. He tells this to a 12-year-old boy. And a 12-year-old white boy and a 12-year-old white girl who are best friends. And the first thing that he does is he abducts them. And it's a space-time thing where he's just hanging out with them for a year, and they find his device. It's like up in his room, and it starts out like an alien horror story. It terrified the shit out of me when I was like 12 years old. I was like, what the fuck? These kids are in their parent, and they're in their, first of all, they're in their teacher's house, is how the story starts out. Is they go to their teacher's house because they're convinced that he's an alien. And they're like, okay, he's an alien. He's got to be an alien. We've never met anybody who's ever been weirder than this. We've never even heard of anybody weirder than this. And so they're like, okay, it's the Mick and Morty thing. This guy's, I'm sorry, what is it? Yeah. And so they're like, okay, well, we're gonna go to his house and just see if he's got a spaceship. And they do. They find not only a spaceship, but they also find like a fucking machine that he immediately ensnares them with up in his basement, or sorry, up in his attic. There's like this machine that freezes them in time, like a carbon freeze essentially, but he can talk to them while they're in it. And then he just begins to tell them all this crazy crap. He's like, I'm here to flunk your fucking planet because humans are fucking assholes and we hate you. You are the only fucking living sentient race. You're the stupidest sentient race. This is the first thing that Broxholm tells him. He's like, you are the stupidest living race in the entire goddamn known universe. No other living race would ever nuclear bomb themselves. And he informs them, and he's right. He is right about this. He informs these poor kids. He's like, you guys are considered to be, he's like, do you have, I believe this is some kind of conversation like, do you have retarded people on this planet? And the kids are like, yeah, we have developmentally challenged people. And he's like, you're worse than that. And the kid's like, no, we aren't. And then the teacher's like, yes, you are. And he's like, 50 years ago, you dropped nuclear bombs on each other. No other sentient race in the history of known sentient races in all of the universes that we know of have ever nuked themselves. And he was like, and we have known about, and he goes on, he's like, we've known about living sentient races in interstellar travel for like 1 million years. And he's like, nobody has ever nuked themselves. And so we came here to kind of put you out of your Down syndrome idiot fucking reality. The only people that would ever nuke themselves, we consider to be too stupid to live. And this is literally what the teacher says to him. I think it's verbatim too. I'm like fairly close to what Broxholm says. It's something like that. He's like, yeah, we've never met anybody as stupid as you who would actually nuke themselves. It's kind of like macing yourself or something like that. The alien himself asks the kid, he's like, are all of you stupid like this? And the kid's like, no, we aren't. And the alien's like, but you are. And the kid's like, yeah, we dropped the bombs, yeah, but we're not all stupid. And the alien's like, okay, well, I'm gonna take you on a case-by-case basis, and you and your cool 12-year-old girlfriend, his 12-year-old girlfriend, they were like, preteen dating basically, or whatever you call Susan, I think her name was. Forget what Susan and Peter or something like that. I forget the name, but yeah. And it goes on to be this wonderful trilogy that I consider to be the greatest thing since Star Wars, where the Intergalactic Council shows up on the planet and the alien takes the kids to all the war zones in Africa. It's gonna make me fucking cry. It fucking made me cry every time I ever read it. It was like, the alien is like, you are pieces of shit. You are. This is an old sci-fi trope. The alien's like, you are a piece of shit and I'll prove it to you. You let people fucking starve to death down the road from the supermarket megastore, and he brings them to a California fucking megastore, and he has them witness the death of a homeless man, and then he's like, that place is full of food, He's like, I couldn't have saved him, I don't have any money. I don't live here. I can't save him. I don't have any food. I don't know what you guys eat. I can't save him. I don't know the alien is literally like, what does this human eat? I would like to feed him. And they're like, oh, it'll be food. We have to go get him. And the alien's like, yeah, but he's like dead right now. His pulse is like ending. And then the kids are like, yeah, I know. Well, there's food in this store right here. And so the kids are running in the store as these people are starving to death in Africa outside of the mega store where the food rots in the fucking aisle. And the alien is like, oh my God. How do you say that this planet is not worth flunking? How do I not press the button? How do I not go back to the Intergalactic Council and tell them that you guys aren't the stupidest pieces of shit in the known living universe and that we should press the button, kill the whole planet before you turn the entirety of all of existence? And this is what the alien says too, I'm fairly sure. He says, before you turn all of existence into living war. He was like, I believe your filthy species to be some kind of weird parasite that kills each other, and that's all you do. You just kill each other. That's it. You kill and you fuck. And you just kill each other. And then this is what I grew up on, stuff like this. It kind of warped me, it twisted me a bit, but I believe it. I believe everything that Broxholm said. I was like, God damn it, he's absolutely right. If some person were to come here and run some kind of value judgment on us, they would find us lacking. We nuke each other and rape women and fucking, drop bombs on our mother's houses and shit like this and commit war in Israel, Palestine, all this shit. We're not too worth saving. Not really. And that's not the point that I'm getting after here. I'm saying that, like, what's to stop? One of the reasons why Trump's fucking xenophobic fucking racism is incredibly fucking dangerous to all of America is because we don't know how powerful Mexico could ever be. They could easily be the new America. What's to stop them? They have all of the goddamn knowledge that we have. What does a Mexican not know that we don't know, that we know? Maybe we have some new stuff that they don't know. Maybe we've got some scientists that are better, etc. We got more money, maybe, etc. But what really does the US know that Mexico doesn't know in terms of knowledge? I would say it's basically the same thing. They're like the same thing. So what would prevent Mexico from being an extremely powerful world power at some point? Nothing at all. What happens if that ever happens? Are they going to think, oh, America, those people who kept us at their border and called us rapists and thieves and all this stuff, right? Then I know it took me like an hour of mental masturbation and jokes to get around to it. But this is my struggle with your fucking piece of shit xenophobic racism. It's not even in the Bible. The Bible will tell you the stone that the fucking builder refuse shall be the head cornerstone. Or is that Psalms? I don't know. It's Psalms, I think. But the stone that the builder refused shall be the head cornerstone. It's old Rastafari knowledge and stuff. And it's true. And so if you cast out all of our Mexicans and you lock our borders and you kick them out and you treat them like pariahs and like they aren't our best friends and that we aren't comprised of them and that we aren't them, right? It sets back U.S.-Mexico relations for 500 years or something like that. And then if we ever get in trouble, they don't help us. And if they ever get in trouble, we don't help them. And we sanction them on everything that they do. And they say, if you ever fuck with this border in a weird way, we'll fucking start a fight with you. And it fucking sucks. It just sucks. And they only say this because they're scared of us. They're more scared of us than we are of them. I guarantee it. So it's just stupid. It's like the whole thing is rife with stupidity. The xenophobia, the racism, this whole almost anti-Bible thing about casting people out. It's almost anti-Bible. I'm gonna say it. Trump is about the most anti-Christian fucking entity that I can fucking think of. A Christian voting for him is a fucking debacle. That man is not God-fearing in any way or fucking form. He won't even say the word God or anything like that, I'm less God-fearing than him, or I'm more God-fearing than him, or not more God-fearing, but I'm less God-fearing than him, I'm an agnostic. I'm not smart enough to know what the situation is, and that's the problem with fucking the race relations with Mexico that he set us back with. He doesn't know what happens in the future. He doesn't have to pay the costs. By 2090, he'll be gone. I mean, I guarantee it'll be sooner than that. By 2060, he'll be gone. Right? No matter what, we will probably be rid of him by 2065 at the very latest or whatever, right? Him just causing us problems all the time, setting us back, and, you know, just making our neighbors hate us and all this stuff, right? So, but he'll be out of here by 2065, but will the Mexicans ever forget this treatment? No. They'll pass it down through the goddamn ages for fucking generations. They'll never ever forget this. They come here, all they want to do is be us. That's it. They are our friends, our closest neighbor, our best ally. They run all of our labor pretty much. And they definitely are the strongest faction in this country. And I don't know what was up this fucking shitty white man's ass, but I just do not approve. I don't know what his racism was about. It set us back so goddamn fucking badly, and I will not talk about this without like bad fear, because sooner or later, in the big gambling fucking dice roll that is life, sooner or fucking later, Mexico will sooner or later have the upper hand over America. It's just bound to happen. Sooner or later, sometime, Mexico might be stronger than us and a little bit more capable. It just doesn't occur to these xenophobic fucking racist pieces of shit. It doesn't occur to them that the alienating people might be actually a really horrible fucking idea down the road. They don't know what diplomacy is or anything like that. They don't care about the 5,000 good, hardworking American diplomats who worked from between 1850 till about 2025 to fucking build this country's reputation to be the best it could possibly be, despite the circumstances, especially with Mexico and places like that. And it set us back. He set back the work of like 5,000 diplomats over a 150-year period and shit. He set us back. It had costs. It is terrible. The Mexicans down the street probably fucking secretly hate you because they think a really bad, irresponsible white man has brainwashed you. Like Hitler. That's literally what they probably think. They're like, oh my god, this weird white man is this weird rich white man who's never worked a day in his life is attacking honest, hardworking fucking Mexican fucking people who he doesn't even ever go around, so he has no idea what they're like or who they are. He doesn't ever go around them, so he doesn't know who they are. He hangs around bidets and rich people all day. He doesn't hang around Mexicans, I guarantee that, unless they're in his fucking, you know, he probably does have some Mexican people on his payrolls and stuff, but does he hang out with them on the daily at the restaurants that he dines at and shit like that? No. And so what the fuck does Trump know about Mexicans? What the fuck does that pamper rich boy idiot who rode a bidet his entire life rather than a desk job or a political position, what the fuck does that idiot know about Mexicans? I don't like having to point this realities out to people. You know, I don't like that it feels like an attack, because honestly, it's an honest question. I didn't mean it to be an attack. It's an honest question. What the fuck does that idiot know about Mexicans? Has he ever even talked to one?
The value of your homes from you, she would be the most popular politician in America by a landslide.
It's affluenza, and it's killing us. It's affluenza, and it spans every reality that we know from, you know, it doesn't span the lower class. It's the only reality it doesn't span is the lower class, but it does span medium and upper class. It pretty much takes 2/3 of all of our caste system, like completely to some corrupt value. It's terrible. I don't dislike capitalism. I'm not a fucking communist. I'm talking about the disregard that it engenders in us. We were supposed to fight that. God told us, or whatever the fuck, Allah, or whatever the fuck you believe in, told you to fight the corruption of this money and evil. It's in every fucking religious script. It's in every fucking canon. It's in everything that we've ever done. It's in Star Wars. It's in everything we've ever done. The Force compels you, and you don't ever go to the dark side, but yet it seems to be the most popular thing in history to just full-blown embrace the dark side, alienate the Mexicans, act like an irresponsible white man, being bigoted, be a bigot acting badly, and all this stupid ass shit. Set us back with race relations with our closest fucking neighbor. And sooner or later, in the next 500 fucking years, sooner or later, Mexico will do well. They are not bads. They're not bads, maybe. You know, they're not. They're not bads. They're just not. They've never been. Spain has never been bads. They're not fucking bads. They're not bad at life. They're not, you know, they're very, very strong, vibrant, you know, culture that has no weaknesses really beyond, I would say, the disregard of other races. I think it's fucked up, and that's not a weakness. It's like a strength. They have a strength, but it's our weakness. They are disregarded by the entire fucking world, and the stone that the builder refused shall run this goddamn country. I mean, they are running this country. Probably 30% of our fucking leadership is Latino, and that's a good thing. That's a fucking good thing. That's a thing that I cherish and love. Like, it speaks towards a future where we might actually have peace instead of this racial fucking religious bullshit all the fucking time.
Private equity funds their campaign. They fund Trump's campaign. So they've neutralized both candidates and that are not telling you the real story. And, you know, look, I don't want you to get the wrong impression. Donald Trump, obviously a fake populist. Is he going to get rid of taxes on tips? There's no chance he's going to do that. Instead, he's going to cut the corporate tax rate one more time from 21% down to 15%. So, but at least he's faking it. Whereas the other side, they did it for like a minute.
Yeah, but the Democrats aren't promising pretty much anything, I don't think. Maybe unions.
Hidden walls, populist agenda.
They want to lower the price of about 10 drugs, but I mean, I think we need the price of 10,000 drugs lowered, like he said earlier. So I don't know, like, yeah, what did the Democrats intend to do? They talked about infrastructure the last 4 years, and they're doing infrastructure, and that's all I need them to do, frankly. That's all I want them to do. But I never ever hear them talking about anything. What is their policies?
And then the Biden team took back over, no interviews. They started renouncing some of their populist policies, and they went back into corporate mode. So yeah, that's why they can't.
They can't forget. They wake up in the morning and there's Mr. fucking, you know, there's Mr. Lumberg. Was it Lumberg? Yeah, Lumberg in Office Space, right? They wake up in the morning and there's Lumberg with a cup of coffee, sipping with his glasses and his non-disclosure agreement, waving some kind of fucking lawyer's fucking document at them and stuff. And he's like, yeah, remember that time when we gave you like $150 million when you were kind of strapped for cash and you weren't going to win that election or whatever? And they're like, yeah, we do remember that, lobby. What do you want? And the lobby's like, yeah, you know that fucking weird bill that you've got that you talked about like 2 years ago and stuff? In the 79th corner, we're gonna amend that motherfucker to shut down a naval base in Annapolis, Maryland. And that's what we want. And the Democrats are like, okay, so you make sure that Trump doesn't win by giving us like $150 million to run our campaign or whatever the fuck it is. And in return, all we have to do is let you shut down a naval base in Annapolis, Maryland, right?
AREKU5ANDA says, king-sized.
And they're like, yeah, that's the deal. We'll give you $150 million, and we're not going to trust you. We're gonna stick lawyers in your offices that deal with you all the time and tell you what to do if you're okay with this. And the fucking Democrats are like, yeah, send lawyers, tell us what to do, give us the money to beat this guy. We can't have Trump. And then they make their deals with the devil. In House of Cards, his name was like, what was it? It was like I can't remember. There was a really bad guy in House of Cards, but I can't remember. What was it? Who was the bad guy in House of Cards that Remy was the lobbyist for? I can't think of the fucking name. But yeah, and they never talk about this, and they're like, okay, and then they signed the deal, right? And then as they're walking out the door, the lobby's like, wait, we want something else. And the white politician turns around, who's rich and, you know, and is going to the steak bar with this guy after their lobby meeting or whatever, right? And it's like, oh yeah, what do you need, buddy? What do you need? I'm really happy with you. You gave me $150 million. What do you need? And they're like, you are going to shut down this Native American casino. And then the politician's like, what? And they're like, yeah, you're going to change some laws in Colorado to shut down this Native American casino because we don't like Native Americans or some such. This is and the Democrats like, what? We've been talking about Standing Rock for 8 years. We're not going to do anything to the Native Americans. We got slaughtered on Standing Rock. And the lobby's like, yeah, but we really don't like that casino, and it's where the main RNC fucking donator hangs out or whatever, and we don't like that casino. So shut down the casino, or you're not rolling with us, and we'll go back Trump, right? And the Democrats are like, really? We have to go shut down this Native American casino or some such? We don't want to do that. We like Native Americans. And the fucking lobbyist is like, you like $150 million more, don't you? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, well, then go shut down the fucking casino. And now you got to do that first before you even get the $150 million. They go and do that, and then they change the deal. They're like, okay, well, we said we would give you $150 million, and you did shut down the goddamn India casino. But the problem is, you didn't really shut down the naval yard very fucking quietly, and you set us off with the fucking unions and all the people that got fired when we shut down the naval base. So now we're fucking pissed at you, so we're offering you 30% less, which is, fucking $100 million as opposed to 150, or we will go back Trump. We don't like you anymore and all this stuff. And at that point, the lobby fucking owns the Democrats. They own them. This is exactly what the fuck happens. Not exactly as in like the Indian base or the Indian casino or the naval base, but it's just, I'm just trying to come up with like examples of of evil things that they might force the Democrats to do. Like back the fucking Netanyahu.
Someone who
back Netanyahu, one of the worst killers we've had in the last 20 years. And we love Jewish people. We love Israel, and that is our best friend. Essentially, we've got all kinds of covenant with him. That's one of our best friends. That's the motherfucking homie. We love you guys. And I am so sorry about all the shit that you are caught up in right now. And I feel for you, brother. I do. But I mean, I'm sorry. You have been wasting Palestinians like it's that game fucking Contra. You've been wasting Palestinians like it's Contra.
Who's an obvious monster.
And so now we don't like you anymore. And so we're like, okay, well, if we back you, we're backing the murder of Palestine, and we can't do that. And so now, and the Israelites are like, what are you talking about? Like 185 of your lobbies are bought by us. Most of your money comes from us. What the fuck are you talking about? Back us, and back us now. And Netanyahu is good friends with Trump. They're right wingers and shit. They're and like they're fucking they love each other and shit. And they're right too. They do own like 185 of our fucking lobbies, and we do have to do what they have to fucking say. We do what they say. We stay out of it if they want us to stay out of it. We get in it if they want us to get in it. We do what they say. We have become their bitch, and that's okay, but it's not like advantageous to America. It's advantageous to Netanyahu, and that's it. It's not advantageous to Israel. It's only advantageous to Netanyahu. That's it. And these are the fucked up, weird social fucking Potomac two-step fucking weird shit that we do. I can't fucking stand it. He's sick of it, and he calls you on it all the time, but he somehow still believes in you. I don't believe in you. I think this is all you do is sell us out to the highest bidder. I can't remember the last time you did anything for us. I guess the healthcare was really nice, but when you think about it, I've always been able to get my health care in this country, whether you had Obamacare or not. I've always been able to go to a doctor in this country. I'm not trying to downplay the victory. It was a really good one. But I'm saying there was times when I probably couldn't afford to do it. But I mean, I'd never not been able to go to a hospital when I was in crisis and not been healed in this country. That is a right that has always been there. Now, I might not be able to fucking pay, so I get slammed with this $115,000 fucking hospital bill afterwards, which is why we did Obamacare. But if you think about Obamacare, that's what Obamacare is. It's not something about wanting us to have generalized health care. It's the Democrats shilling for the health care. It's the Democrats shilling for the fucking health care. They pay so much money. It's insane. The healthcare system has made the American government their bitch. It's insane. Navigating the healthcare system is insane. And they are definitely, the HMOs definitely have the goddamn government in their fucking pocket. And the pharmaceuticals especially have them in the pocket. So, like, I don't know, man. Like, at what point have you done something for us that wasn't essentially down the road from genocide or some such? What have these people really done for us? What has the elephant in the jackass done in the last 50 fucking years except waste JFK, get us mired in fucking Vietnam, Get us mired in Kosovo and Gulf War, chase weapons of mass destruction from madmen that didn't exist or weren't really there, or we forgot which one they were, or what country they were from, or what country we were fighting at the moment. And then we Patriot Acted ourselves, which is kind of like nuking ourselves. It's that goddamn stupid. The Patriot Act is the stupidest thing America's ever goddamn done, I think, beyond dropping the bomb without the public's permission. That's the worst thing we've ever done. And you guys did that too. You dropped the bomb without our fucking permission. With friends like you, why would we need Nazis or fucking Pol Pot or fucking Kim Jong-il or any of this stuff? Why would we need, with friends like you, who needs dictators or Saddam Hussein or Osama bin Laden, which is a lie, by the way. You know, all of those things are a lie, by the way. And it's weird. It's just weird. Why do you do this stuff? It's your oil wars, your dependency on oil or some such. Why do you have this dependency on drama with your neighbors? We have been peaceful, you know. I mean, we aren't anymore. But that's because right-wingers told us to go to war with people all the goddamn time. That's what Vietnam was. That's what 9/11 is. That's what COVID essentially was. It's like go to war with ourselves and stay inside of our home. You know, it's insane. It's just crazy. It's like, I don't know, with friends like you, who needs Pol Pot dictators? I don't think I need Chairman Mao. I think I've got the fucking privileged, you know, leadership in America. I don't think I need Saddam Hussein or Osama bin Laden. I don't think I need them to be real. I think we have that here in America.
And that they should be landsliding. Guys,
it is weird. It's like it's weird. My faith in you is entirely gone. You understand? Entirely gone. You're not getting my vote willingly ever again. Your 4951 has choked me all of my adult life. You try to shot at me, throw me in jail, broke my ribs, and then tossed me in a paddy wagon, shit like this. And for what? Like for what? Drugs? Like, come on, man. Like with friends like you, who needs Hitler? Like, seriously, with the government friends like you, like people argue about what woke means all the fucking time. It comes up for me all the fucking time, and I'll tell you what I think woke is. It's a terrible thing. It's waking up one day, quite literally. You wake up one day and you realize that these governments are not your friend. The governments are the friends of the lobby. They don't give a living shit whether we die of fucking trank in the streets or not. They don't give a shit if we die. They don't care if Venezuelans, you know, shoot up our apartment complexes or anything like the Republicans are trying to say, or anything like that. They don't care about the like fake things like people eating cats or anything like this. They don't care about us. They don't care about anything that happens to us. They don't care if they constrain us to war. We are the putty in their hands. It is disgusting. So now, you know, why I would fight for these people or use the same name as them or vote for them or support them and stuff. I'll support my fellow Americans till the day I die. I always will. But these other people that sit up in that fucking do nothing Congress for all of their fucking lives doing nothing while we fucking slowly fucking decay. It's like really odd. That is not what we pay you to do. The filibuster is not what we pay you to do. The not taking care of us is definitely not what we pay you to do. And January 6th, you know, say what you want about it, but I would say it was basically necessary for us to come black your eye. I mean, we could have just full-blown chopped off your fucking head. But I think what January 6th was about was blacking your fucking eye and making you understand we don't really like you anymore. We woke up one day and we realized that you're far more likely to Ruby Ridge us than you are to help us. You know?
Think on how Trump's
That's spoken like a Proud Boy or some shit. That's what they think. Spoken like a right wing because I'm progressive. I like both sides. I like my guns. I like fucking law and order. I like fucking things that Republicans like as much as I like things that Democrats like. I am a progressive. I like my marijuana, my butt sex, and all this stuff. But on the other side, I'm pro-gun. I don't like your fucking gun laws. We built this country on guns. And I would trade abortion for that fucked up war on drugs that killed us all if I could. And I would sell out the lobby to the fucking highest bidder and take the money to fucking pay for education and to teach our kids how to farm food so that we aren't fucking dependent on crappy ass fucking Pillsbury dough that turns us into 400-pound fucking Jabba the Hutts. And trust me, that's what's happening to America. All of the fucking preservatives in our food. And I'm going to tell this to you in a way that you know, the way that Jello Biafra would say it, so it sticks in your fucking head, right? Most American bread is considered to be an illegal fucking substance in the rest of the world. Most American breads are considered full-blown controlled poison by the rest of the world. It's literally illegal to sell Wonder Bread in any European country. You can be thrown in felony jail for that because the American bread is considered so toxic and so poisonous and so bad for you, and the preservatives that are in it are considered to be about as valuable as a Big Mac or something like that. They're not good for you. They're bad for your body. They might cause cancer. We don't know. We haven't been doing this long enough to know. We don't know what those preservatives do to the human body. We've only been messing with them for like 50 years or something like that. It's going to take 5,000 years before we know totally what the effects is of pounding all those fucking preservatives into our bleached fucking bread. And bleached bread is bad for you. It's bad. It doesn't break down in your body. It stays in carbs and goes straight to your butt and all this. And it turned America into Jabba the fucking Hutt. It's disgusting. It didn't need to be like that. But the fucking bread lobby and the cheese lobby, which is where we get the goddamn phrase government cheese. The bread and the cheese lobby were convinced that we needed to fucking stockpile a bunch of bread and cheese in the 70s. And we dumped like $5 billion on this or something like that. We bought all of the cheese in the world and we stuffed it in fucking 70s fucking bunkers and stuff, and we're like, we bought all of the cheese in America. We'll never starve. It doesn't matter what happens. We could have nuclear war. We're always going to be able to eat cheese. Sure enough, a year and a half later or whatever it was, 3 years later, every bit of all that $5 billion of cheese that we bought full-blown fucking rotted. It turned all of those shelters and underground bunkers and stuff that they stored the cheese in. They filled every bunker that we've got with fucking cheese in the 70s, and this is what they spend our tax money on. Don't believe me? Go watch the videos. It is true. That's where this phrase comes from. Government cheese and shit. They went and dumped $5 or $10 billion on government cheese in the fucking 70s so that we wouldn't starve to death after they sent us the foreign war with like Stalin or whatever whoever was going to drop the nuclear bombs. I think back then we were terrified of the Soviets and Khrushchev, I think it was, or no. Who's the guy with the Boris Yeltsin? I think we were terrified of Boris Yeltsin. He was Putin's predecessor, I think, or something, wasn't it? I don't remember all the fucking tool names that don't matter, all the traitors. I don't remember their names. To me, it's like a fucking basketball card game or something. And I'm like, God damn it, I never liked basketball. I don't like these basketball stars. I don't care about basketball cards, and I don't like basketball cards, but yet I'm still required to be a basketball card expert or whatever. So yeah, I learn about these politicians and what they do so I can track them so they don't get me killed. But I don't like that. I don't like that I ever even know what they're doing, honestly. I would prefer to just stay away from them and keep them out of my reality if I could, you know? It's unfortunate, but it is true.
Tim Walz, populist.
So, like, you know, now, I don't know, like, all the time I think, like, okay, with friends like you, who needs Hitler? Frankly, for friends like you, who needs Hitler? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't see really a difference between our jails and concentration camps. You ever been to a county jail recently? I fucking have, and I don't really see the difference between a county jail and a fucking concentration camp. I'm sorry. I think we basically are living in Nazi America, and on top of it, we moved most of their scientists to our cores and our law enforcement. And so now our FBI and our CIA were all taught by Nazis. So of course they're J. Edgar Hoover. Of course they're fucking, you know, Jesse Helms. Of course they're shooting Martin Luther King and John Lennon and shit like this. Of course they're like this. They were taught by the lead Nazi interrogators of the Gestapo. We brought them here after the fucking war and had them teach all of our police. I don't know why we wanted to do that. I guess we feared and respected the fucking Trunchian goddamn fascism of the Nazi party so much that we felt we needed to fucking educate our cops and our leadership with it. And we brought all of their interrogators and all their Gestapo spies and shit. We had them train our police. I don't know why we did this. I don't really respect the Nazi party or anything the Gestapo did. Why the fuck did we teach the CIA to be the Gestapo? I don't know, but that's how we lost JFK. That's how we lost MLK. That's how Trump got shot. Trust me, that's how Trump got shot. Trust me. The only reason that Trump lived was the guy was a fucking, he was a bad shot. He had Martha's fucking fingers or whatever. He was a bad shot. It means it wasn't any good.
Agenda, and then the Biden team took back over.
I'm glad he wasn't good. I'm not trying to say I wish he was. I'm trying to say I'm glad he was I'm glad he was a bad shot, because that sucks. But I mean, I'm fairly certain that because we brought Nazis here to teach our CIA how to be the CIA, I'm fairly sure the CIA contracts assassination attempts on our fucking leadership all the time. I'm fairly sure. I'm like fairly sure that happens. Like, there's been many videos confirming it. There's been many fucking like court documents and cases and stuff. There's and so now I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like, it's weird because I believe in law and order and structure probably more than most people do. I really love the law. I would have passed the bar if I could. I really believe in these things. But I am the most left-leaning liberal you will ever meet when it comes to actually trying to force these people to do anything at all. Anything at all. We can't even force them to vote. We can't force them to do anything at all. We can't force them to not come across the border. We can't force them to do anything at all. We must make this place so good that they want to do it. That we have to make this place so fucking good that they want to respect the surroundings so much so because their kids are so happy and nobody's starving and nobody's wanting and everybody's taken care of. And when something bad happens, we circle the wagons and you know how we do. And we come a screaming and a clucking. And we come circling the wagons like we do, whether they're Mexican or not, and we say you're an American and we love you and we see that you have a problem and we back you and shit. And when they see we want to turn this place into the most beautiful place in the world, that's the happiest with the safest neighborhoods and the best unions and everybody's represented, everybody gets a good college education and everybody gets it's not some fucking socialist dream. I'm talking about basic human decency here. Basic human decency. But no, we have lobbies training people in our leadership with lawyers how to lie. That's how sad it is. We literally have lobbies fucking, what do they call that? It's when coaching, right? We have lobbies coaching our fucking politicians how to act in public. It's disgusting. It's literally like we don't have a government. We've got the lobby.
Interviews. They started renouncing some of their populist policies. And they went back into corporate mode. So
the Democrats go right back into the corporate mode. They make some promise in some backroom fucking thing, and they're like, all right, fine, we really want the money to beat Trump, so okay, sure, here, we'll do this. Yeah, we'll work with you. So here's the information for Watergate, right? And they do something dirty, and both of them do it, Democrats or Republicans or whatever it is. And so they do something dirty, thinking that they can get away with it. But no, the whole world knows that they shot JFK. The whole world knows that they shot MLK. The whole world knows that they try to kill the Nation of Islam and they've been trying to fucking wipe out the Muslims and they dislike fucking people who wear turbans and stuff and they know this. They know that they do. They call them nasty names all the time and they go to war with them all the fucking time. They try to dominate the Middle East all the time. They're racist as all get out. It's just disgusting.
Lost Secret says it depends on who starts the
and God forbid they think about the fucking 18% of this country that is Arab or whatever it is. How many Americans are Arab descent, right? It's a lot. To say that they're anything but us is just fucking full-blown racism. It's 3.7 million Arab Americans. I don't know what that percent is, but if we have 700 million people, it's like 21% or something. I don't even know. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's fucking a lot. I don't know what the percentage is. I can't seem to find it. But yeah, and the census isn't totally accurate either, and it's always changing and everything. But we have a lot of Arab Americans, and the way that we treated the Middle East was so goddamn disgusting that the Middle East is probably never going to work with us ever again. Do you understand how really fucking bad that actually is for America? It's like you live in an apartment complex, but you pissed off your neighbors, and they're in the hallway when you go to work every day. But they don't have jobs or something like that. It's like that. So they're just going to hassle you every single fucking time they see you. because you said that they had weapons of mass destruction and that they were going to use them when they didn't, and you stormed their country and tried to take the graveyard of nations when you had like every fucking intelligent fucking diplomat since the dawn of time telling you that it's called the graveyard of nations and that you shouldn't try and rob it. Nobody ever manages to. They just die in the desert, which is why it's called the graveyard of nations and all this stuff. But no, we had George Bush asleep at the switch as usual. He probably didn't even know what, he's probably never even watched Lawrence of Arabia or anything like that. I'm serious. Maybe he did, but I don't know. I kind of doubt. He doesn't strike me as the type. So it's sort of weird, and it's weird. It's like, if you don't understand what the Arab Spring is, you definitely do not belong running the highest office in the land. You don't know what it is. You didn't even read the Constitution. Throughout the film, Birdie is seen supporting her friend despite tolerance of dangerous and reckless behavior and all this stuff. Yep. She just like lets her crazy wild kids run mad.
Who's
that was such a good documentary.
And that they should be landsliding. Guys, last thing on how Trump's so easy to beat. Like, imagine if the same exact scenario as Trump, with the same exact sourcing, right? But it's about Barack Obama and how he thought his fans should.
So now, okay, the aliens give the Mexican and his family and his government perpetual motion, and they're like, use this to make endless rice and endless food and endless water and endless, energy and endless electricity and endless everything, right? And they're like, and get your country out of poverty completely. You'll be out of poverty inside of 3 weeks when you understand that you don't ever need an engine ever again. You don't ever need fuel ever again. You can run any engine at any speed that you could ever want to run it with just this simple device that the aliens give the Mexicans. And the alien likes the Mexican, unlike the white people who threaten to kill the alien the second that they meet the alien. The Mexican is just like, hey man, and so the alien likes the Mexican. This, I like Mexicans, whatever. So and so the alien gives the Mexicans the perpetual motion as compared to America. And suddenly Mexico is the new America, which is not that far of a premise. It's not that far of a possibility. It's not that far. They're very possible. It's very possible for them to do so. They are just as advanced as us or more. And so if the alien gives this perpetual motion to this thing that Trump hates, who calls them rapists and murderers and builds walls against all the time, Mexico slowly but surely pulls them their own ass out of poverty over a 200-year period. And by the end of it, they're hosting the Olympics in Mexico City, and everybody in the world is buying a ticket, and it's the most beautiful country in the world. And all the kids are happy and well educated, and everybody's got good jobs, and they're cushy, and the whole world understands the Mexicans are just as dope as fuck as everybody else. Right? And we're like, oh man, this thing that Trump did a couple hundred years ago, we still haven't forgotten about that and all that. It was just insane. And boy, how he was wrong, wasn't he? Yeah, he was. And like, and that's how I feel. Like, all it would take is the shoes being on the other feet for the world to see how really foolish it is to alienate Mexico in any fucking way or form. Especially because they live literally, like, okay, when we look out the window of our apartment complex, they're looking out the window of their apartment complex, but it's right there. When you lean out the window, your homie, the Mexican, he's sitting next door, and he's on the patio like you, and he's looking at you like you're looking at him because he is you. You are the same. You're Americans. And except you called him a rapist and a murderer, and you try to kick him out of the country. You try to deny him the American dream. And you try to build a literal wall of China, like that worked. The wall of China obviously did not fucking work to keep the Huns out of China or whatever, right? It just did not. It did not work. And so we know that walls don't work. So why did you push that wall so much? I can't stand it. I can't stand that you did that. I'll never let it down. It cost us. It cost us with our strongest constituency. It cost us so fucking terribly. And friends like you, Who needs the Nazis?
Should murder Joe Biden. What do you think would have happened? That would be the largest story of our lifetimes. Everybody knows that, right? Imagine if Biden...
I can very easily imagine the CIA killing Biden. I can see that. I think we have a rogue syndicate running the CIA currently. I think we have a rogue syndicate running the IRS, because the IRS is not a governmental fucking entity. It is a fucking rogue syndicate. It's basically a governmental entity, but it's not like, you know, but we never asked for it. We never asked for the Internal Revenue Service. They just did that to us. They just did it. And I view it as essentially a rogue syndicate, like basically to enforce inheritance tax, basically. That's mainly what it is. Mm-hmm. Which is them stealing from you after you're dead.
Chief of staff goes to him and says, "Sir, your fans."
I hate sounding like so much like a right-wingers fucking love me, because they'll argue all of their fucking points, because I tend to agree. Almost all of them, except for the racism, are definitely issues with this goddamn country. It fucking sucks. But not the border. That's our strength. The border is our goddamn strength. If we didn't have the Mexicans, this country would be goddamn dead. And I want to stand by with your racial fucking heresy, essentially anti-American racist fucking rhetoric. I want to stand by while you denigrate my best friend, my closest neighbor. I will not do that.
They think you're young and dynamic. They're really upset that Kamala Harris might replace you. They're trying to murder her. They're chanting, "Hang Kamala Harris, hang Kamala Harris." And Biden said she deserves it. The largest story of all of our lifetimes, times 10, and everybody knows it. Same exact thing with Donald Trump. Barely a blip. And by the way, the Democrats barely mention it.
I know. Wait, hold on. Mention what?
That he was didn't mind his vice president being murdered. Like, that's not a thing they talk about often at all.
They never ever talk about hang Mike Pence. But honestly, that is the most fucked up, like, disloyal war against your own countrymen. Calling for the blood of a fellow American? Doesn't that basically, like, from the crowd, doesn't that basically destroy your citizenship? If you're calling for the blood of another honest, hardworking American in our leadership who did nothing but back you, essentially, if you're calling for his blood in the fucking chambers as you bust in, I don't really see how you're still an American, really. You have plotted against and seditioned against and essentially plotted the downfall, or called for the downfall of, a fellow American, which to me removes your citizenship, essentially. If you're threatening fellow Americans with murder, maybe that shouldn't remove your citizenship, but it should definitely remove your fucking freedom. You can't be calling for the death of honest, hardworking politicians in this country. Why was this not prosecuted? I've always wondered this. You can't just call for the death of somebody in this country. If it's a fellow American, that should be a really big cardinal sin that should end you up in felony prison. You can't call for the death of a fellow fucking American. Not in public, not to cameras, not if you own a position of power. No, that's terrible.
They talk about he's a threat to democracy, but
why
okay,
not?
Fair. But I don't know how much that's going to move the needle, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, no, but that's the insanity of it, guys. That's the look, I get it. MAGA doesn't.
But that's the insanity of it.
I'm not talking about MAGA.
They don't believe in anything.
I told you this before. In social media, I put out this story that's indisputable, and you know what? They didn't dispute it. Half of them were like,
"No, they're like,
yeah,
yep,
we don't mind if Mike Pence
that's
was
us,"
because then Donald Trump would be president. Okay, there's nothing you could do about MAGA. But there's tons of independents who would not vote for anyone who wanted their vice president.
Would not vote for anybody who acted like that. I would never vote for anybody in this leadership who acted like that and called for the blood of a fellow hardworking American who never broke a law in his life. Look at Mike Pence. That fucking tool. I'm sure he's got a speeding ticket or something like that. But that tool, not a bad person. Just a civil servant. I don't like him. He's a piece of shit fucking traitor Republican. But I mean, you know, can't be perfect. You know. Actually, you couldn't call him a traitor. You couldn't call him a traitor. That was the one thing that he wouldn't do. They demanded that he do it, and they called for his blood when he didn't do it. But no, you couldn't call Mike Pence a traitor. I just think of Republicans as traitors. I guess that's a terrible thing to say, and I'm sorry. I take it back.
Been murdered, okay? Because that is...
I do. I full-blown think of Republicans as basically traitors who haven't activated their terrorism sleeper cell yet and destroyed our democracy. I really do think that. I've always thought that. I think of Republicans as these like sleeper cell agents that are trying to detonate our fucking democracy and divide us completely so they can have their weird race war or whatever it is that they want. And I just don't trust them or like them, and I will say it very clearly.
That's beyond insane. And then the termination...
You call for the blood of a fucking fellow fucking Republican too? So not only are you calling for the blood of a fellow American, like a true traitor or whatever the fucking seditious person that you are, but on top of it, if you're going to call for the blood of somebody, shouldn't it be Joe Biden? If you're going to call for the blood of somebody... Let's see, who's the bigger threat to your fucking lie? Is it Mike Pence not backing you? Or is it Joe Biden himself? I just don't understand I don't understand calling for the blood of a fellow Republican. I mean, it's like they're not even loyal to their own party. It's like so weird.
He said, I want to terminate the Constitution. What's complicated about that? If Obama or Biden had said, I want to terminate I mean...
If Obama had said, I want to terminate the Constitution, every right-wing fucking Ruby Ridge crazy person Proud Boy in this country would have just boiled blood and been at his throat within 2 days. Trust me, right down there to the Capitol building. Trust me, if Obama had even remotely said anything like that at all, they would have full-blown rioted. But we put up with it from Trump, his seditious fucking anti-American, anti-patriotic fucking seditious shit. We just put up with it because he's got money and he bought the lobby.
Tim Walz misspoke by an inch, and instead of saying that I'm friends with the families of the victims of the shooters, he left out victims. And they're like, he's friends with the shooters. They go ballistic over...
Joe being asleep at the switch is just as bad, though. Just as bad.
The most obvious...
It's just as bad as calling for the blood of Mike Pence. Joe being asleep at the switch and trying to hide it is just as much betrayal as calling for the blood of a fellow Republican, Mike Pence. It's about as much betrayal, basically. They're about guilty of about the same level of like seditious, crazy behavior. Like Biden hid his lack of faculties for 6 months or something like that. And now he's, I don't know, but I consider that sort of like basically the same thing as Grima Wormtongue taking over the king and getting him to essentially sink Rohan. That's like the same thing to me.
Is misspeaking of all time, right? Imagine if Tim Walz or Kamala Harris said we should terminate the Constitution. The right wing and the mainstream media would all say, no, the race is over. The race is over. Donald Trump is president. But Trump says it, and everybody's like, that's totally fine.
Oh, that's fine. The crackpot, fake, fucking unhinged cartoon character, we just forgot what he said. That's a Thursday for him or whatever. When he threatens somebody with genocide or some bullshit. That's a Thursday for him. Or when he says that he's gonna never tax tips ever again, like he's ever had a platform that actually ever was followed. It's cool to say things, but does he do anything? No.
Fine. It's not fine. It's not fine.
It's not fine to call for the blood of a fellow American. It's not fine to get convicted of 34 fucking felonies and walk out of that courthouse. I really...
With you that it's not fine.
That was the death of America for me. When he walked out of that goddamn courthouse after the 34 fucking felonies, you can see it in his eyes too. He's thinking about that day when Trump just walked out of that goddamn courthouse and we could have just ended all this fucking madness. You can see it in his head because I'm thinking about it too. That day he walked out of that fucking courthouse and he dodged 34 bullets like some kind of goddamn Matrix Neo because he's just spent his entire fortune on NDAs or whatever.
And as I've said repeatedly,
I don't know what to do. You can see in his eyes too. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to. She doesn't know either. We don't know how to stop these people. I don't know.
Donald Trump should be held accountable, and I hope that the special counsels, case against him.
If Obama had even offhandedly said, I will dismantle the Constitution, this country would have flipped its table and fucking charged that Capitol building, and it would have been the power of 100 January 6th. You understand? But Trump says it, and it's like, oh, hey, it's just the seditious traitor, seditioning traitor, traitorism. It's just the seditious traitor, seditioning traitorism, calling for the blood of his own goddamn vice president, I mean, he didn't call for the blood, but they did. His party called for the blood of their Veep. Their own party called for the blood of their Veep.
Moves forward some way or another because what he did.
And honestly, that lie that Mike Pence, it wasn't a lie. Mike Pence just wouldn't back the Georgia election fraud. He just wouldn't do it. He was like, no, I'm not going to lie for you, no. And he didn't lose his job, and we don't like him, but I mean, but he wasn't a bad man, I wouldn't say. He was a smart man. He wouldn't sign up with the devil, He's the lesser of two evils now. Now I miss Mike Pence because at least he was like an old form Republican who wouldn't fucking actually sell his own fucking party out to the highest bidder and do stuff like call for the blood of their own vice president. If you're going to call for the blood of anybody in America, you should probably be removed from America, or at least removed from being free in America. But if that doesn't happen, then definitely you should call for the blood of your enemy and not your own vice president.
It was wrong. I do value our democracy. However,
the whole thing plays like some kind of demented cartoon character that's fucked up and busted down, like a busted down merry-go-round, like when Roger Rabbit starts smashing fucking plates on his head and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and the fucking record starts to skip, so he just starts smashing plates on his fucking head over and over and over again. It's like, and that's what this reminds me of. It's just like sort of crazy. It's like a broken down merry-go-round of lies. Like fucked up lies that are unnecessary. Like it was a lie to say hang Mike Pence, because within 2 days they knew very well that Mike Pence didn't have anything the fuck to do with it. It was the Georgia election officials. Within 2 days, everybody in that movement knew exactly what the fuck happened. Mike Pence had no idea what was going on. Mike Pence is a vice president. He didn't know anything. He was sitting in his fucking office, probably twiddling his thumbs. The fuck does the vice president know about fucking sedition or election scams or anything like that? He better not know. I mean, he didn't know. He didn't know anything about any of that shit. He wasn't part of it. They couldn't get him to roll with it. He would not sedition fucking his own country. He wouldn't do it.
It is also a problem, guys.
And so you called for his blood, and that only lasted like that day. Before, within 2 days, it wasn't just Mike Pence is why this happened. It wasn't just Mike Pence. There was many reasons why he lost that election.
Our government makes a...
Mike Pence is not the emperor of the election commission. It's like that South Park joke about how Jesse Jackson is not the emperor of black people or whatever. Motherfucking Mike Pence is not the emperor of the election commission. He's not going to wave his God wand, like his bleach wand or whatever, and cause the election to swing in Trump's favor. No, he just said, no, that craziness, I'm not struck with anything like that. What the fuck are you talking about? When they brought it up, he was like, fuck no. No, I'm going to sit back here in this vice president chair, and I'm going to fucking do nothing like all of our vice presidents have done since the dawn of the country. And that's exactly what he did too, and that's what we wanted him to do, and that's what doesn't scare us. Them sitting in that fucking building doing nothing doesn't scare us. That's probably the most positive thing that you could say about it, is that it doesn't scare us when they just sit in that building all their lives doing nothing. That's what we want them to do, essentially. We want them to do things, but mainly it doesn't scare us if they sit in that building all their lives. And so so Mike Pence, this idea that he's this fucking emperor of the fucking election commission or something, that he can just wave some fucking magic wand and summon an election result, is like this idiot Mike Pence. What were you basing this on? Some fucking tweet on your idiot fucking Twitter? Elon Musk wrote or some shit? What the fuck? Where did that fantasy come from? Mike Pence is not the fucking emperor of the election committee.
A mockery
He could have done nothing for Trump. Well, I mean, what? Maybe made a phone call and begged some election commission to sedition the fucking country, essentially. That was about the best that Mike Pence probably could have done. This idea that we should hang him or whatever, and I don't like defending a Republican. That's like defending Nazis. But I mean, like, fucking, I don't like Mike Pence, but I don't really understand that weird mania you had around him. Somebody told you a lie about how he controls the election committee, I guess. It's the vice president. He doesn't do shit. He probably can't even get a Dr. Pepper without Secret Service clearance and stuff. He can't do anything. So like this idea that he can just go wave some phone call and change the election results but with just his power as vice president or some shit. If that was the case, I'm sure they would have. I mean, doesn't Mike Pence profit if Trump becomes president? You don't think Mike Pence wanted Trump to become president? I'm fairly sure he probably still does, honestly. Like, he probably is still a Republican. He probably hates Trump. He probably hates everybody who rolls with him. But I bet he still wants Trump to win because it means the Republican Party wins. I guarantee it. So, like, this idea that Pence needed to be hung because he's the emperor of goddamn election officials and he's going to wave his fucking cell phone and summon an election result win. No. This weird fucking fantasy on Twitter that some fucking right-wing idiot like lied to you and convinced you that Mike Pence was needed to be hanged that day. What the fuck kind of power do you think Mike Pence has? I doubt it. Okay, if Mike Pence goes to the bank, he probably has to get permission, frankly. He probably has to get permission, frankly. If Mike Pence is like if it's work hours and he's got a detail and shit or whatever, Mike Pence probably has to go get permission to go to the fucking bathroom. He can't wave some wand to summon a jaded lie of an election result. And where did that fantasy come from? And why did you call for the blood of a fellow Republican or whatever? That was super cartoon character unhinged. And that wasn't even Trump. That was the weird MAGAs that were in that building that day.
Of our democracy. And what I mean by that is we have now gone on for several decades where the needs of the electorate are not met. And when you have a democratic process that...
The word MAGA is so close to the word maggot, and I swear to God it's on purpose.
It's supposed to elect...
It's so close to the word maggot. It's so fucking weird.
Individuals who...
What is with that weird shit? It's some weird branding from some stupid Esper person that wanted to play with branding names and stuff. It's so dumb. Fucking...
Serve you and your best interests, who seek to take care of the American people, and they fail to do so again and again and again.
They haven't served.
People increasingly stop caring about...
I stopped caring. I stopped liking them, and I don't trust them.
Our precious democracy.
I don't trust the elephant for the jackass. I don't trust the jackass for the elephant. I don't trust or think of them as different, be like Skycat, be jaded, right? How to be jaded in 2024, right? I believe that the Democrats and the Republicans are the exact same party with the exact same leadership. John Jackson, Jack Johnson, shit sandwich or turd sandwich or douche nozzle. It's always a choice between douche nozzle or douche sandwich or turd sandwich or whatever. It's always a choice between that and so I don't trust them any more than I can throw them, and I don't give one party any more value than the other because they both have sucked for fucking 75 years since JFK got shot. They both sucked. It's pretty much been war. It came up the other day. I asked my mother, how many years of your life has America been in conflict with foreign entities? And we started to count. It was 46 years of her 70-some-odd year life were years that she saw America in conflict with somebody. Half of her adult life. It's been like 20 years for me. 25 or something like that. It's going to be 50 in the end for me, too. Why? What does America need to go to war with anybody for? Why? What is on this planet that we can't get our hands on? Religion?
I think that is a wrong way to approach it. I think that we need reforms in our system of government that ensures that our elected lawmakers actually serve our best interests rather than take bribes and serve the best interests of the corporate elite and foreign leaders. But
why do you guys not say the lobby anymore? It's the lobby. Just say the lobby. It's a really good umbrella statement for all the corruption in our leadership. It's the lobby.
I'm just thinking about...
It's not foreign interests. It's lobbies. Foreign interests sounds racist to me. Lobbies. And often they're white.
What is
they're not foreigners.
Being communicated to the electorate overall, and what has been communicated to the electorate overall, not just for a few years, not just over, you know, the years that Donald Trump has been on the political scene, but for literally decades. Literally decades.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good video. I'm going to get off of politics now. I didn't really want to get mired up in politics. I'm just doing videos as they come up. That's all. Crimson Multibox Marauders. Throne and Liberty. Fully F2P. Yeah, I'm fully F2P too. Who would pay for that? Fox hosts embarrass themselves with idiotic conspiracy theory. AI is killing the internet. That sucks that she's doing like copies of his videos and stuff. I finished Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred. New survey proves the Trump supporters are genuinely stupid. Brian Tyler Cohen annihilates MAGA idiots live on Piers Morgan Uncensored. Bethesda's future cannot be saved. Here's the proof. Nightingale dead bites post realms rebuilt and what's next. Let's listen to them
everybody.
talk.
Welcome to a new series we're doing.
Yeah,
here.
I like Nightingale and I wish to return, but I mean that's a very early access title. I'm gonna come back in a year. I'm gonna give you guys your time to actually do something with this. I paid you the money. I don't have to sit around and play the game. I want you to fucking keep making the game good.
Neil and I are
I like Nightingale. It's a good game.
And me, Aaron Flynn, CEO at Here at Inflection. We're going to spend a bit more time talking to you all, a little faster format, a little less formal, just a little faster to put these things together. And we're choosing today because it's been about a week since we wrapped up our sale on the .5 update, and today we put our 5.2 update out. And so we can share a little bit about that, some of the things we're excited about that, and give you a little preview as to where we're going next.
Yeah, and of course we're obviously super grateful to everyone who's tried Nightingale maybe for the first time. Always love to hear people's feedback on the game.
It was a good game.
What you're enjoying, what you're not enjoying.
I love Nightingale.
Zero says, WTS all pristine bulk PMO.
That just helps us make the game better as we go along.
Oh yeah, I spend a fair bit of time in the Discord. We read all the reviews, of course, on Steam and other places. It's been great to see Reddit pretty popular and pretty positive about things. That's been really nice. Reddit hasn't always been the best for us, and so the .5 update has been really nice to see people invigorated and feeling good about where we're going with the game, and as well as having a lot of cool ideas about what they want to do next. The .5 update worked really well for us. As you know, the main big pillars were things like storied realms, the tech tree, new boss battles. We increased the structure cap limits, and then we had our new onboarding as well. So it was a big update for us, and overall, we're pretty happy with it. I'd say about the analytics tell us that about half of the players who played it are returning players, and about half are new players, which feels like a nice balance. Feels like that's about what I would have wanted when we first thought this out, a mixture of new players and returning players. And so for those who've returned, great, glad you like it. If you're a new player, I hope you liked it as well. It was a lot of work. If you're a new player, you didn't see what the game was like before, it had its charms, but we certainly think the new approach is stronger and offers a bit more structure and necessary value to those players. So it's good.
Yeah, I would also say, I think one of the biggest changes to the game, you'll agree, was we think this change gets people to the action quicker, dramatically quicker. Yeah. The old tutorial is long gone. The new starting flow into the game gets you into the realms. It gets you using tools. It gets you using magic straight away. That was feedback we heard loud and clear and was super important to the experience.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's been really good to see the game come together in that way, and like I said, really happy that people have picked it up and tried it that way. The 5.2 update came out today, so thanks to everybody as we brought the servers down and brought them back up. Again, a number of mostly bug fixes in that one. Some of the big bug fixes that got dealt with are charms no longer lowering gear levels. That was a weird one. Sorry about that. We fixed invincible trees spawning near potted plants, which seems odd that would happen, and yet it did. So glad that one's fixed. That's probably the oddest bug. I think we heard that one's been actually a problem since we launched, and it's just been whack-a-mole trying to find it and figure out what exactly it is, but finally narrowed it down and got it one closed off. What else we got? The composite structures being invisible bug was fixed. I'm sure a few of you saw that or experienced that. I did personally in my playthroughs, and so glad that was fixed. I think that was really an optimization that went in to help that structure cap limit be higher, and now that it's fixed, that's good. There was a glyph in a desert vault that wasn't working properly that got fixed, so that's good, because I know glyph puzzles can be frustrating when you can't find the glyphs, and certainly probably the only thing worse than not being able to find a glyph is to find the glyph that doesn't work. And then lastly, there were just lots and lots of additional little bug fixes in there. I still feel like, and Neil, I think you agree, there's still a few too many bugs in the game. It's frustrating for us as developers to put a game together, and we see reports of players something's not working or something's not working certainly as intended. And so we feel really bad about that. And so, it's our mission right now, and one of our priorities is just keep dealing with those bugs, keep addressing them. So thank you to those who file reports. Thank you to those who post. It's super helpful. As I said, sometimes these bugs are very hard to track down, and your ability to help us narrow use cases and file these things is incredibly valuable to us. So thanks a million for that.
I need my phone because I'm going
the players who've been
to
playing for literally hundreds of.
close this Final Fantasy character finally. I'm going to go and check her one last time, but I think she's completely stripped and ready to die. She will translate into the pixels and go to the land of wind and ghosts. It's sad. She only made it to like level 6 or 8 or something like that before I got killed by fucking what was it? It was a crab, I think. I pulled a crab and a goblin once again aggroed me. I was in the wrong camp, but where I shouldn't have been. Camps I have to be more really religious about, because like I was focused on WoW, but honestly I can kind of like turn off New World at any given time. Really, it's one of the things I really love about it. It's never really that demanding unless you're in the middle of something. So like, and I like that because I can just kind of like pop over to a different game very simply. And so doing hardcore on FFXI might be better. Oh, I have more. Oops. Some water. Cool water.
Of hours, your experienced realm walkers at this time, and that their help is invaluable to track down some of these really tough to find issues. There was also, we made some changes to the UI in this release.
That's right. Yeah, you can talk about those.
Just a nice little addition, a little bit of design flourish around some of the pop-ups and panels and quests and text boxes. So that's a nice little addition. We're always trying to iterate on the UI particularly and really make it as seamless an experience as we can.
Yeah, I've seen some of the new UI stuff too that keeps coming, and the team's cooking. They've got a lot of good ideas for where they can improve the UI more. Yeah. And it's a lot of iteration, right? It's a lot of usability feedback and just playing it and saying, how could this be a little better? And then again, stylistically keeping it all consistent. That's been a nice evolution of the game as well, for sure. It's nice to see a consistent UI. So that's the state of where we've been and where we're at as of today with the 5.2 update. We could take a moment to talk about what things that are important to us next. Certainly a big one, as I said, is more bug fixes. It's really important that we keep fixing those bugs, and so thank you again for those who have been posting or sharing your experiences. It really helps us. Performance is one we've identified now as another important topic for us. You only can get certain level of performance.
Oh, you can upgrade your Dark Rune? I didn't know that.
It's still a newer engine, and there's still new elements of and updates to UE5 coming. We've got some folks down at Unreal Fest right now who are learning about these updates and where they come. So we'll prioritize a UE 5.4 integration next. So stay tuned for when that's going to come. But that's been in the works for a couple months now, and hopefully that will address some performance issues as well. I'm excited for that. What else we got? We're thinking a lot about storied realms, what we'll do next with more storied realms. We certainly love the ones that were released. We're wondering how we might do more of those and potentially what biomes there might be for those. So we're thinking a lot about that. What else are we talking about, Neil? What else is going on?
Well, item customization is
that's a good one.
Is a big one. We're certainly deep into those systems, so we can look for that in an update coming soon. Very important that people can fully express themselves through their items and clothing with full customization.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a good one. And then there's lots of topics on things like NPC automation, more to do with your NPCs. This idea of building a village for your NPCs. There's more ideas for really cool Apex creatures that we'll talk about soon. And so lots of those things are happening too. But more about that future update.
Finally, do your mining complex where all the NPCs are mining.
It's been my dream for years, Neil. As you know, mining is my favorite activity in the game. True fact, I really enjoy mining. I don't know why. It gets very zen for me, and I just totally zone out. And actually, I've got this watch here that gives me alerts. And a lot of times I play Nightingale and I'm mining, then I'll set up things in silver realms and stuff. I'll get an alert comes up and it'll say, "Good job, you've rested for 3." Sometimes it even thinks I've napped because my heart rate gets so low, and it's weird, right? And I just
what an adventurer you are.
I know, right? I'm just like, that's just how I play the game. So I guess take that for what it is, folks, as to why some things happen around here that happen. But yeah, lots of cool things that are coming there. And we'll share more of those in future updates as we do more of these little fast, quick to put together videos that are just meant for us to chat with you. And you can always find us on Discord, find us on other social media platforms. We lurk and we hunt around those places. So don't be shy about asking us questions. Neil and I love talking about Nightingale, as do many of the developers here. So please don't be shy about that. Is there anything else we should cover before we break?
I think we're good.
Okay, great. Well, that's our new format, folks. Thanks to everybody who helps put this together, and we'll be in touch with more updates as soon as we can. Okay, great. Thanks.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of This Fucking Guide.
Oh, God, I hate fucking Mitch McConnell.
The video series where we pick apart a fucking guy who has made America worse. I'm Erin Ryan, host of Crooked Media's Hysteria podcast.
And I'm Alyssa Mastromonaco, the other host of Crooked Media's Hysteria podcast.
Alyssa, on this series, we've covered a diverse array of fucking guys from a variety of fields. But in addition to making America worse, they all share one important trait.
Fucking guys.
Well, we've yet to do a crossover This Fucking Guy with People
This
Magazine's
fucking
Sexiest
guy.
Man Alive, nor are we covering Nobel nominees. Erin, I am lost. What's the trait?
The trait is delusion. No matter how much damage they've done or how boring their tactics, how simple and smooth their brains, fucking guys believe themselves to be cool and tough badasses. And most of them are simply weenies with no shame.
All true, Erin. My loins are girded.
And nobody is a bigger intransigent weenie than today's subject, Mitch McConnell.
An empty skin suit who has proven he will do and say almost anything to get reelected. A smug, oily man who has done more damage to 2 of the 3 branches of government than just about anyone.
He is a cartoon of why Americans hate Congress.
I hate this fucking guy.
You're going to feel even more strongly when we're
I
done
really
today.
hate this guy too.
I have no doubt.
Yep, fuck this guy.
Okay.
No.
Addison Mitchell McConnell III was born in Alabama.
What? His real name is Addison, Erin?
Addison III. Addison III.
my
He was an only
God.
child, and he was named after his father, who was named after his uncle.
His name isn't even Mitch, it's Addison. His fucking name is Addison the Third.
Mitch's family owned a funeral home.
Your name
When he was
isn't
2 years
Mitch.
old, he fell seriously ill with polio, and his family nearly went broke paying for his...
Addison got polio. I'm sure it turned him into a Republican miser. I watched this movie. I think it's called Citizen Kane.
treatments.
Another thing that fucking guys seem to have in common, they face some sort of hardship as children, but rather than wanting people to be spared of that hardship, they think that because they suffered a hardship, it would actually be unfair if other people didn't have to suffer too.
Yeah, truly a broken-brained way to impede progress. McConnell, even though he had the personality of an invasive species of grass, was involved in government as early as high school. He discovered that the way to get elected when you have no charisma.
She's very
is to
funny. She's very funny. I like her a lot. Yeah, every time I've ever heard him talk, I'm like, oh God, that guy runs our fucking Senate. He doesn't have a personality. Heart Rune of Cannon Blast, Heart Rune of Dark Ascent. So I've got everything that I need except Corrupted Lodestone and some Sulfur. Okay, Corrupted Lodestone. Apparently you can upgrade heart gems. I didn't even know they had a fucking eye level. I thought it was just some ability. I didn't even think to look at the eye level on it. Seems sort of like extra work for no reason, like slavery with extra steps, but It is nice that I can upgrade the eye level on it. Maybe it'll do more damage finally. Corrupted lodestone. Oh no, look, it's 4,000 gold. Yay.
Speedy Grim says, never peeked in English XD.
Well, I don't know. Corrupted lodestone for 842.
Speedy Grim says, I can shot though.
What about a buy order? You have buy orders for 400.
Speedy Grim says, shoot asterisk.
I would like to buy more than you. I need 5 of these. 5. Was it 5? No, it's 4. 5. It will be 2,000 gold. I have 3 days. Now, why is it so... Ooh, it'll be 2,000. Yeah, 2,000 gold. Yeah, I mean, I need these, so I guess I'll do this. There's so much work to do. I'm glad that Fresh Start's coming because I'm staring at the abyss of this. I'm staring into the abyss of this endless grind. I need 26,000 gold for what is it? It's just to do my featherweight, my one first legendary upgrade to get its 3rd ability, the good one. And I've got to buy... I didn't even know that the heart gems had eye levels now, so I've got to upgrade that, and that's 5,000, or well, yeah, it's like 2,000 gold, 2 to 5,000. And then there's something else that I have to do as well, and I can't remember what it is. There's something else I've got to buy, but I can't remember what the fuck else it is. I need another instrument, which is like 5 grand. I maybe should look at bags now. I should, I don't know. There's like so much. It's like 100,000 to do all of it. I think or that's like 50 grand. It's like 50 grand. And it's dumb. So you're just going to see me grind and grind and grind and grind for like a whole fucking week. But I mean, at least there's something to do, you know? At least it's a game that I want to play, that I'm enjoying, that feels like I'm growing in it, and it's an endless grind.
Matrix X5 Jewelry Matrix X20 and Armor Matrix X10 WTS.
Ah, yes, the armor matrix, and I need 6,000 gold for an armor matrix, so that puts me at 32,000 for the featherweight legendary upgrade. Who the fuck has 32,000 gold? I've had it before, but who the fuck has that? Nobody has that. I mean, people have that if they main the game, but people like me that don't, I guess I'm maining it now, but I mean, like, people like me that don't have that kind of money, that's insane to me. 36,000 gold is insane amount of money to me. That is like an insane amount of money. So I don't know. It is to me because I don't do ECR really anymore, and I mean, this server doesn't have ECR, so there's not really a fast way to just pull in fuck tons of money and keep cracking weapons and all this. I have to go pick plants and like chop trees and stuff. If I want money, I have to go actually farm. I can't be sitting on HyperNet or anything like that, kind of cheating or anything like that. There's nothing really... I could do some market manipulation, probably come up pretty quick if I find the right trick. Like, for instance, I think I did find the right trick in the respect that right now...
Speedy Grim says, doubt what you want, oh.
One of these things I sold had, like... had gained 7 gold value, but I mean, I bought them for I think 100 gold or something. So now I've got like 270 of these orichalcum charms that are worth like 7 gold a piece. So that's insane. That's like another 1,400 gold coming in that I wasn't really expecting. And that was something I did like 5 months ago or something, and it just it's benefiting me today, which is kind of cool. So I got some residual income coming too, that I just worried about like way back then. I put up a buy order and then I stopped playing New World, and it just sort of sat there, I think, for like 3 weeks. And somebody did fill it. They filled it, all those charms and stuff. I did buy a bunch of charms, and they stacked up, and now I can do 2 interesting things with them. I can sell them all for 7G, which is what I did. And I got them for a penny. And I'm selling them all for $7 a pop, and I got like 200 of them or something like that. So I'm gonna get 1,400 gold off of like, I don't know, whatever it was, like 100 gold fucking investments or something like that. So that was good because it came out of nowhere like 5 months after I did it. And Yes, mithril never did go up. It's weird because this should be valuable ore, but it's actually not. Some of this other stuff, though, is valuable. Oh, I have oil. Oil's always really good. Yeah, that's like 2 gold. Yeah. Sheet cloth. Basil. I mean, I should use that basil, but I don't really care. Fungal slime might sell. Yep, fungal slime does sell. And mushroom fins. That was nice. I noticed that the prices are definitely better. Like, I think they've been combating bots quite a lot more, and I think they have some kind of posting algorithm going now or some such, because I really feel like it went from all of the stuff was worthless and all the stuff was worth something, but it was all either really insanely expensive or completely devalued to pennies, just so they could sell it at bulk, at volume, and still get their gold, so they could sell their gold. They were like bots, and it was plagued with it for like 3 years. It ruined the economy, but this economy is not ruined anymore at all. Everything here has good value. And it wasn't like that at first. And with that comes a lot more interest for me. Because I'm like, ooh, I just got something that actually is valuable or whatever, you know? Like meat bait, you wouldn't think. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess meat bait is not really worth anything because you can make it so easily. But most of these are actually worth like something. Yeah, like this, like Ironhide used to only be worth like 7 cents or something. But now it's up at like 11 buy order because people are really embrace the buy order system now, and they're definitely they're definitely paying better, I would say. It's cool.
Convince the voters that the popular kids like you.
An early pioneer in influencer marketing.
Yes, Mitch McConnell was the original charcoal toothpaste or mail order waist trainer. He was in college during the height of the Vietnam War and in 1967.
I'm going to pause this and get some ice cream. I'll be right back. Get my dessert for my single meal that I eat. Okay.
Ben had a brief, mysterious 4-month stint serving in the Army Reserves.
We love a mysterious stint. What happened?
Well, McConnell enlisted in the reserves in March of that year, but reported to boot camp at Fort Knox, Kentucky in July. A month later, he was discharged for a common medical condition called optic neuritis.
Optic neuritis can be treated with a steroid and completely alleviated in a matter of a few weeks.
That's not the only weird thing about Mitch's time in the military. He's never released his discharge papers publicly. There was a letter, however, sent by Senator John Cooper to the commanding officer at Fort Knox, urging McConnell's expedited discharge because McConnell needed to enroll at New York University. Weirdly, McConnell had just so happened to intern with Cooper in 1964, and double weirdly, McConnell never did end up enrolling at New York University.
In 1967, the military...
Wow, they just let him out of the Army, huh? They were like, you can just leave the Army now. Do you know that's, like, people would kill for that? There were people that would kill for that. They would kill to get out of the Army, I guarantee it. And like, it's insane. It's insane that they just let him walk out for some reason because he was like connected up or whatever the fuck. I don't even know. Who knows what his deal is? How the fuck did you walk out of the army? Nobody can do that. That's crazy. Well, apparently somebody can. I can't find the text-to-speech. There it is. Text-to-speech off. There.
Terry needed all the help it could get. So why were they letting able-bodied men like Mitch leave scot-free because of minor, easily treatable medical conditions?
Ask Donald Trump's alleged bone spurs. Mitch married his first wife, Sherrill Redmond, in 1968, and the two had 3 daughters together. After their divorce in 1980, Redmond became, and I'm not making any of this up, a leading feminist scholar who worked at Smith College, leading the Sophia Smith collection. On her last day at Smith, the all-women's college praised Sherrill for her work making sure the collection included more marginalized voices. Quote, "These new materials provide strong evidence that women of color worked for gender equality long before 1963, participated in the so-called second wave of feminism, critiqued it for not adequately reflecting their concerns, and incorporated some of its practices into their own women's movements that burgeoned in the 1980s and continued to thrive in the first decade of the 21st century," unquote. Talk about winning your divorce.
Aaron, Mitch McConnell was married to the perfect hysteria guest? A Seven Sisters icon?
Yeah, I want to know more about her. At least one of Mitch McConnell's daughters has devoted her life to left-wing causes. His daughter, Porter McConnell, is the director of Take on Wall Street.
Netflix should make their Thanksgivings an annual holiday special.
As much as I'd rather talk about his groovy-ass ex-wife and kid,
awesome.
Let's get back to our fucking guy who sits perched like a vulture at the axis of boring and evil. Mitch McConnell bounced back and forth between Washington and Kentucky, one of those psychos who never really had a life or career outside of politics because he doesn't seem to have an interest in anything else. The first time he tried to run for office in Kentucky, he was disqualified because he didn't actually live in Kentucky.
A tale as old as time.
There are moments in many fucking guys' lives when you look back and think, bad.
Watching these Karens roast these idiot Republicans is so funny to me.
Person had gotten what they wanted at this point. Things may...
Not that fucking guy. I really like that they say that fucking guy all the time, because that's how I think of them too.
May have been different.
Like Hitler getting rejected from art school.
Yes, like Hitler. Mitch returned to Washington to work as a Deputy Assistant Attorney General under President Gerald Ford. While he was there, his co-workers included famously unhinged Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia and famously rejected Supreme Court nominee Robert Bork.
Famously crazy rejected Supreme Court nominee.
Yes, Bork was bonkers, but Bork borked so that Antonin Scalia could fly, which is another story for another this fucking guy. So after making friends with 2 of the worst people in America, he returned to Kentucky. His first elected office post-school stuff was Jefferson County Judge/Executive, which was the closest thing that resembled a mayor in the northern Kentucky county that contains Louisville.
I'm so curious what he was like as a sort of mayor. Did he get anything done or just stop things from getting done and call it a day? Was he always a proud obstructionist? The governing equivalent of having a rock in your shoe?
No, it's probably not going to come as a surprise when McConnell is a shapeshifter who says whatever he needs to say to hang on to power.
They're very funny.
McConnell denies this, but many sources in Kentucky politics
say... Like having a rock in your shoe. They likened goddamn Mitch the bitch's career to having a like having a rock in your shoes. Like it's like this crippling thing that prevents you from getting anything done. Yeah, I would say that's how Congress has been. Yeah, it's like having a rock in your shoe.
That in his early political career, Mitch was pro-choice. And back then in the late 1970s and into the early 80s, portraying himself as some kind of conservative pragmatist.
Oh, he had a soul once. But then 40 years of the Senate and yeah, that'll do it to you. You'll lose your soul. I guarantee it. It's the Senate. It does it to them. All the games and all the lies.
Was what helped him win elections.
this track since he was still married to the very smart progressive woman. Until...
Well, in 1984, McConnell ran
very
for
smart
Senate
progressive
against
woman.
popular two-term...
That is awesome. He married a progressive. How did Mitch the bitch marry a fucking progressive? Isn't he like pretty much like Palpatine? What? Or no, that's Cheney, huh? So I've said it before and I'll say it again. Progressives and Republicans get along just fine. Because, and it's weird, we do. I get along with Begon just fine. I do. He doesn't care. I mean, he cares that he dislikes my affiliation, but he doesn't care about it, though. Because we get along just fine, because he understands that I will never tell him what to do. I don't like the government any more than him. I don't trust them any more than him. And I don't, and I believe in people being good and doing good things like him. Oh no! Don't inactivate me! No! Don't do don't do it! Don't do it! No. I'm gonna play this song. God damn it! And it's funny. So the Republicans, the Democrats can't stand the Republicans and won't be around them outside of business or whatever, right? And occasionally, I'm sure they end up being friends with each other. I'm sure it happens. I'm sure there's very famous Republican and Democrat friends and stuff. But overall, I would say the Democrats mainly probably stay away from the Republicans mainly. I don't think the Republicans care, but I think the Democrats care. And I think they'd stay away from the Republicans when they can. Now, I don't care. I will freely hang out with only Republicans. I really don't care. I just want to have fun. I'm like Cyndi Lauper, girls want to have fun or whatever. I don't care about what their affiliation is or anything about them. I don't care. I don't care who they fuck. I don't care what their god is. It's all shit to me. It's all the same color in the end. So it says blue M&M, red M&M. It's all the same color in the end, right? It's all the same bullshit to me in the end. It's all like, so... So progressives and Republicans get along fairly well, and it doesn't shock me that Mitch the bitch was married to a progressive, but it's kind of funny that Palpatine let her raise all of her daughters liberal. It's kind of funny that he let her do it, because that doesn't really fit the Republican mold. Usually they push family ideals, and while I'm sure it probably irked him that all of his daughters are liberal. I don't know.
Democrat Walter
and so they were trolling and being like, yeah, there should be a Netflix show about Mitch the bitch and his leftist anarchist leftist daughter, right? And I was like, yeah, I think they're right. I think there should have been a television show. Yeah, like they should make a television show. Mitch the bitch and his daughter. She's like organizing like Occupy Wall Street stuff, and he's like dancing around to the Imperial Death March theme and torturing Wookiees. With his force lightning. His dark purple force lightning and everything. And his cute little granola daughter is like this leftist liberal who runs like Occupy Wall Street and shit, and she's like a very active like leftist liberal and all this. And so they probably have dinner, and it's so funny. He like scorches a crow with his purple fucking lightning, his force lightning. He scorches a crow and it falls stinking to the table and shit. The television writes itself. And so he scorches they're out on the Death Star, and a crow flies by on the Death Star, and he scorches it with purple lightning, and it falls, and he's like, time for dinner. The shit writes itself. And his daughter's like, I'm a vegan. I can't eat a crow. And he's like, oh, you will eat crow. You're a liberal. God damn it. Shit writes itself. We do need a Netflix documentary of Mitch the Bitch and his liberal daughter. It's Mitch the Bitch and his liberal daughter. I'll write it myself. Shit, I'll fucking make it myself. Mitch the Bitch and his liberal daughter. Shit writes itself. It needs lots of Force Jedi lightning and Imperial Death March themes for him, and cute little granola like hippie like vegan things like about her, right? And their average day is like him arguing with her over the cost of Death Star laser power. She's like, are you killing Wookiees again? And he's like, I told you I'm not Palpatine, I'm Mitch the Bitch. And she's like, Dad, you scorched a crow with your purple Sith lightning yesterday. And you told me that I would eat crow because I'm a liberal. Fucking Mitch the Bitch jokes are hilarious. This fucking turtlehead moron.
The odds are against Mitch in this race. At one point,
making fun of worthless ass traitor Republicans is so fun. I fucking love doing this. How this idiot became. Oh, what do you mean activity? No. Oh, I didn't do it. Do it. Damn it. All right, fine. Do it to it. 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 Every time he enters the show, you hear dur, 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 and there's like this faint, like faded image of Darth Vader's skull. And then his daughter comes on and it's like, do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. I don't want to wait for my lives to be over. She comes in and she's like, hey Dad, I've got vegan chocolate. And he's like, oh, but I can't eat vegan chocolate. I didn't torture any slaves to get that. Damn it. God damn it. This isn't torture safe chocolate. I cannot be Palpatine. I'm sorry. I cannot be Mitch the Bitch. Or whatever. Mitch Palpatine Mitch. Palpatine Mitch. I love it's funny watching like middle-aged people make fun of Republican tools.
Polling showed that he was down 40 points.
Oh, good. Yeah, 40 points. That's when you don't have a personality and you're 40 points down. They really just don't like how you look. Even they don't like you. We're not gonna vote for you. They're like, even his appearance is a turnoff. Like what? And so they just score him like a D- on his political gray card, you know. They're like, yeah, I guess you can have the office, but yeah, you're still a D- and you're down 42 points in the polls, but you didn't have any competitors anyways because nobody would ever work with you. You're Palpatine. I guess you got to torture Wookiees if you're Mitch the Bitch, right? Nobody's gonna work with you. You're the Republican lead of the House. You're basically full blown Jabba the Hutt mixed with Darth Vader. You're like really bad. A lot of bad things from Star Wars. You're like they wrote that song for you, you know. And so you're up there, the Republican lead of the motherfucking House, and your liberal daughter is like, Dad. You, God damn it, Dad. Your gas chambers are messing up my granola house.
Along came Roger Ailes.
Future Palpatine
Fucking Netflix.
Yeah, that'd be pretty wild.
Fucking Netflix. Mitch the Bitch Palpatine and his liberal fucking Occupy Wall Street daughter have dinner at Dave & Buster's. Shit writes itself. Dad, do you own this Dave & Buster's? God damn it. And he's like, well, no, but I own the many companies that do own the Dave and Buster. And she's like, Dad, are you hanging out with Dick Cheney again? And he's like, why? Did his daughter tell you? Shit writes itself. It just comes in every once in a while. I could do South Park episodes. Every once in a while, the Imperial theme plays. Like every once in a while, the Imperial Death March plays kind of irresponsibly and in bad spots that don't really make sense to the story. So he's like getting up to go to the bathroom in the fucking in the Rimworld organ harvesting factory that he owns in Kentucky. He's like getting up to go to the fucking bathroom and the Imperial Death March theme plays. God damn it. And he's like, why is that music keep playing?
Wild if there were two different conservative media operatives named Roger Ailes.
Not much crazier than there being two John Favreaus. John's Favreau in Hollywood?
Stupid Republican tool.
Take it. So then Nixon advisor Ailes comes in. Jabba the Hutt like even in his youth. And
the Karen says the same joke like 2 seconds later. I swear to God, I've not seen this before. But when the Karen cracks a Jabba the Hutt joke naturally in the video, 5 seconds after I just did a Star Wars bit about Mitch the Bitch Palpatine and his liberal daughter. He's already like, and she's already like taking Jabba the Hutt shots at all his Republican hotshot fucking idiot friends. They look like turtles.
Campaign make an ad alleging that Senator D. Huddleston was skipping important votes to make money on speaking engagements. You'll notice that the ad, where a tracker uses a pack of bloodhounds to look for the missing senator, doesn't feature McConnell's name or face until the end. Perhaps wisely.
Switch to Mitch the Bitch.
Huddleston actually skipping votes?
Yes.
Switch to Mitch. It actually sounds really dumb. No, I don't want to switch it up, Mitch. Hey, I'm Mitch and I like to switch. And the Death March theme plays like totally out of place. I can laugh about stupid Mitch the Turtle bitch for like ever. For like forever ever. I hate the man so much. I hate him so much. I personally saw like a fucking winter on the streets because of him personally. I fucking hate this asshole. I hate him. Full blown, really hate him. I fucking would make the cartoon. I would make a cartoon called Mitch Palpatine and his liberal daughter and their wacky dinners. There's lots of Star Wars themed stuff, but it's all ghetto, like knockoff Star Wars stuff, but mainly just all these Sith jokes about Palpatine Mitch and his rise to foul Sith lorddom. Like this rise to the head of the Sith Order. For fucking Republicans. And his foul rise to the top of the Republican Party. I'm sorry.
Like many an Ailes joint, there were kernels of truth in the ad. But the thing was, Huddleston was present for 94% of the Senate votes, which was about in line with the norm for the Senate. And more importantly, Huddleston wasn't breaking any rules.
But Let me guess, voters didn't care.
Yes, the flaming bag of dog poop had been thrown, and the mess was too much for Huddleston's campaign to clean up in the final weeks of the campaign. Mitch McConnell came...
I really must insist that oh, Addison. Mitch is everything disgusting about American politicians. I would say so. Yeah. Even back then, you could see the corpus molding of his turtle face. No real facial structure of any sort, There's a chin, I suppose, but beyond that, there's no cheeks or like this man has cheeks and lips and a nose. He has a nose, and he has eyes, and they're creepy fucking turtle eyes. This guy has normal eyes. This guy has like it's like Sith eyes. And and even back then, his face didn't have any structure. You see how this man has structure to his face and stuff? Even his ears are kind of like melted down his face a little bit.
The only Republican to unseat an incumbent.
It's weird. It's something about the dark side. We're not that advanced or whatever. No, not we, but like, sorry, they are not that advanced yet in the Sith. You know, they're not flying starships and wielding like lightsabers or anything like this yet, right? But they are Mitch the bitching, you know, quite a bit, and you know, Mitching up the whole place and everything, and being a Mitch about it, and I definitely think that like Fable, you like Fable, right? Did you guys ever play Fable, right? Like Fable, if you choose that Sith side and you start eating all of those fucking chicken eggs, raw yolk or whatever, so that you get the evil, you start getting the evil, and you start running things like the American Congress into the ground, like a good Palpatine should. And and I swear to God, like Fable, the Sith darkness of his life, it literally twists his goddamn amorphous face into something weird like a flan. These men have real faces with real structure. This man has a Sith face that has been melted by the dark side.
Democratic senator in 1980.
Dead serious too.
84. The Bloodhound Dad played a big part in that, but there are other factors as well.
Yeah, if you were a Republican running for a long shot office, 1984 was just about the best year to do it.
It was, yeah, all those fucking guys.
That was the year that
That fucking guy.
Reagan won every...
Oh my God, I want to fucking sock you in your fucking shitty, fucking disingenuous face.
States electoral votes, but one.
Minnesota.
Oh, I really don't like these people. Keep them off of my television screen, basically. Don't show me the killer or I'll get really angry. You know, George Bush Jr. I call him Killer, because that's what he is. How you doing, Killer? Have you, have you found Osama yet? Or I think you said you did. I don't believe you. But yeah, I mean, whatever. Did you find Osama yet? Did you solve that one? What, you know, it's kind of like, was it Scooby-Doo Mysteries? Did you solve Osama? I don't even care to track your lies. Like, I forget, didn't you say you did like Zero Dark 30 or whatever, right, about catching Osama, right? Your lies are so fucked up and weird, your weird Cheney lies about taking over the world and all your Sith and everything, right? But like, you know, but all your lies, I can't really keep them straight, and I can't remember. I honestly cannot remember.
Once again, on the right side of history.
Did you catch Osama bin Laden? I mean, wasn't that what you said? I think you did, right? So, like, yeah, but I mean, but that guy never existed because you and your Cheneyism fucking crony Republican friends who descend us into forever wars and kill this country all the fucking time. You seem to really want to go after Osama bin Laden there in I'm sorry, which country was he from again? Was it Iraq? Because that's where, or was it Afghanistan? Were we after, was it Saddam Hussein or was it Osama bin Laden? Which country is which guy from again, and why are we after there? Why are we out there in the Middle East again? If you can't even remember which guy you lied about chasing, and which country they're from, I just don't believe you that they exist. I just full plain don't believe you about your lie that Osama bin Laden exists. Don't believe it. Sorry.
And in a
maybe it's because you crashed a bunch of buildings. Sorry, you crashed some planes into our buildings. Maybe that too.
Early display of
little tough to forgive. A little bit.
2 years after Lambast.
Too soon. A little tough. Too tough to laugh about it or something, right? Is it too tough to try and laugh about it?
Huddleston for earning.
Is it too mean? Because if I can't laugh about it, I have to cry about it. Why did you kill so many of our citizens in 9/11? Cheney. Bush. How you doing, killers? How you doing, killers? Like Trump, you're free like Trump all day. You know? Free like Trump all day.
Earning outside money on speeches.
Free like OJ and Trump all day.
Then Senator McConnell went on a very profitable 11-day speaking tour of the West Coast. And almost immediately after taking office, McConnell started accepting money from the tobacco industry for speeches. More on that in a second.
That's one way that McConnell has been consistent throughout his career, being a hypocrite.
Yeah, he wrote the famous Republican proverb, "It's bad because you're doing it, but it's fine."
It's bad because you're doing it, but it's fine because I'm doing it.
Fine because I'm doing it.
It's bad because you're doing it, but it's fine because I'm doing it.
Safely in Washington, McConnell...
Yeah, that sounds like a sort of idiot thing his gangster ass would say.
McConnell became a passionate advocate for everything that would get him reelected. So brave. Somebody who was always willing to go to the mat and stick his neck out for the big guy, whoever the big guy was. One of his more famous hobby horses was fighting regulations on big tobacco.
Why is it so unsurprising that in the battle against cancer, Mitch would be on cancer side?
I mean, they have a lot in common. McConnell fought against regulating the tobacco industry.
They do. They have a lot in common.
Every chance he got. Dude loved cigarettes. He's fought against things like letting the FDA oversee tobacco and banning smoking on airplanes. Wow, Mitch. Wrong side of that one. A 2019 NPR investigation found that McConnell had for decades publicly denied that there was a link between tobacco use and adverse health effects, sometimes repeating tobacco...
Oh, good. The guy that runs our Congress, really genuinely believed that cigarettes are totally fine.
Industry-generated talking...
I smoked them for 30 years. Would you like to hear? I can tell you. I can show you. Would you like to see how I sound after smoking cigarettes for 30 years? Cigarettes are totally fine. Cigarettes are totally fine. I don't know what you're talking about.
Points verbatim. And in millions of recently public tobacco industry documents that are searchable online, McConnell's name...
But Mitch and cancer, yeah, I would say him and the Satan are... I would say they're like the same thing. Yeah.
Comes up again and again as a friend of the industry.
So funny too, Aaron, because McConnell, who has never been much of a smoker, if a smoker at all, told the Wall Street Journal in 2015 after John Boehner retired that he missed Boehner but was enjoying, quote, the...
Boehner was almost as bad. Boehner was almost as bad as Mitch the bitch. Not quite, though. Mitch takes the McConnell cake, you know. Mitch was such a bitch, you know. Boehner was just like an establishment tool. Mitch was full-blown Palpatine. It was either him or Cheney. Either Mitch or Cheney, I think, were like full-blown running the fucking Republican Party, like the actual Palpatine fucking thing from the background kind of thing. By the time they were like 70 or whatever, now they're like 85, I think, right now. So it's been like 15 years, but I'm fairly sure that Mitch is the goddamn Palpatine running the Sith Party right now. I'm fairly sure. They want him out because he's like 94 or something. And they just kicked fucking Joe Biden out. But then they wanted Biden out for so fucking long. They finally got it. They got it. But then they keep Mitch in at the age of like 92, which is like even older than Biden. It's like another 7 years. But he's never shown signs of age or anything like that because I believe he is Palpatine. He'll probably live to be like 375 or something like that. And the Force will keep him alive longer. It's weird what this shit does to you. When you sell out an entire country and stuff like this. The weird fable effects upon your skin and your life and You know, and you're full blown like manipulating the Republic Party to get like really weird Sith conservative things done. And it's, you know, it's a whole different level of evil. It manifests totally differently. It twists their skin and their eyes, and it turns them into different people. It's such a weird thing when they do this. I don't trust this guy at all.
The much clearer air now. The Boehner's smoke no longer wafts through the Capitol. But I digress. Wait, weren't a lot of elected officials enriching themselves with big tobacco blood money at the time?
Yes, but none so much as Mitch McConnell. Nobody took more money from tobacco than Mitch did, and nobody demanded more money than Mitch did once he personally called a tobacco lobbying group when a promised $1,000 donation hadn't yet hit his campaign's account.
Eye on the ball, Mitch.
Yeah, NPR and local Kentucky media found that McConnell had been paid millions of dollars in speaking fees, political donations, and other gifts from the tobacco industry over the years. One of the more egregious examples of Mitch's willingness to debase himself for the benefit of big tobacco happened in 1998 when Senator John McCain had introduced a bill to increase regulation on the tobacco industry and increase penalties on tobacco companies that failed to reduce teen smoking. The bill was popular with the general public and with his fellow senators.
Right, because in 1998, we were all well aware of the dangers of smoking and how the tobacco industry had been chasing the lucrative teen market for years.
Yes, and the industry spent $40 million on an ad campaign fighting the bill. And God knows how much on Mitch McConnell. And they got a lot in return. But the worst part about it was, in a closed-door meeting with his fellow Republicans, Mitch basically bribed them, promising that if his colleagues voted against McCain's bill, which again was very popular with voters, the tobacco industry would reward them with campaign contributions in their districts as they ran for re-election. And this was reported in the Wall Street Journal. John McCain was at this meeting and witnessed McConnell's bribey promise, and years later, when he and McConnell would get into it over McCain's proposed campaign finance reforms, which McConnell, of course, opposed, in an incredible moment of legislative bitchiness, McCain would reference this infamous moment on the Senate floor. And as for the bill, only 57 of the senators pledged to vote for it, and so it failed.
And of course, we can blame the filibuster for that one.
Yep, Mitch McConnell got to use his favorite anti-democratic tool to stop the bill in its tracks. McConnell has since defended his time as a helpmate for the tobacco industry, claiming that a substantial portion of the Kentucky economy was directly related to the cultivation of tobacco.
He's right.
Which also isn't and wasn't true.
Oh, that's not true?
In 1998, only 3%...
That's weird. Okay, I would have assumed that Kentucky was very tobacco, no? Oh, no, I guess we've heard Tobacco Road and all that, but I thought that all the states in the South were really big tobacco states, but I don't know.
Of the state's economy was tobacco related.
Oh, only 3%, which is like they sell cigarettes, basically. Yeah.
But the state did have the highest number of tobacco-related cancer deaths.
Oh, good.
We often think of Mitch McConnell as a sort of human termite colony that just...
See his weird eye, his weird computer eyes, and his weird shaped pupils, and the amorphous face, and it's weird. The evil has twisted him into this weird thing.
Destroyed the functionality.
Yeah, like something's happened to the skin on his face. Something about the Sith magic or whatever you want to call it, like the Sith like force. Something about the dark side. It's definitely twisted him really bad.
And reputation of the Senate, or the lube that enabled dark money of anonymous billionaire donors to more smoothly fuck over our entire government in ways it was never intended to be fucked. But if you know anybody who died of a smoking-related illness in the last few decades, well, Mitch might have had a little something to do with that, too.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. You guys, comparison really is the thief of joy, and it's so easy to envy other people's lives, especially on social media these days.
Nope.
Listen, I have not gotten to where
I don't do social media, and I haven't done it for like fucking 5 years, 7 years. I like social media, and that's the problem with it. I like watching my friends and what they're doing. I like watching the people. I like watching the doom scroll. I like social media. That's the problem with it, so I don't do it, you know? Just another thing to take up my goddamn time that doesn't enrich me, you know?
Getting a little bit of help, okay? I have talked to a therapist. I take medicine. And everybody should get the help that they need. And BetterHelp makes it so easy for you to talk to someone who can get you out of your own head and get you the help that you need. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule.
Chance to go
Just
over
fill
the
out a
Republican
brief questionnaire
Party.
to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/hysteriapod today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/hysteriapod.
Mitch loved the tobacco industry because he loved money. Mitch McConnell loves money more than anything else in the world. He talks about dark money with the tenderness of St. Francis of Assisi talking about taking care of animals.
A model public servant.
McConnell would do whatever it took to get money, keep money, make it easier for people to give him money. In 1993, he married Elaine Chao, a billionaire shipping heiress who somehow magically was appointed chair of the Maritime Commission by Ronald Reagan.
No
What?
conflict of interest there.
Throughout their
What?
marriage, Chao was able to skate into higher and higher profile appointments, including Secretary of Labor under George W. Bush,
Wow.
Secretary of Transportation under
Why is this poor lady a Republican?
Donald Trump. Her father's company, which was until recently run by
I
her
pity
American-born
her.
sister, has dealt with
Jesus Christ, that's like Jewish Nazi. I pity her so bad.
sticky rumored ties to the Chinese government. Chao has long battled accusations that her frequent appearances in interviews alongside her father have given the impression that the U.S. government is directly backing her family's shipping company. It's a whole mess. More importantly, Chao and McConnell have used each other to maintain access and influence across the U.S. government for decades.
What an iconic partnership.
A nightmare power couple. Allegations of
nightmare fuel power couple. Fucking nightmare fuel.
corruption followed Chao like the scent trail of a fine perfume. In 2000, a slurry pond owned by Massey Energy burst open in Kentucky. The spill killed 1 million fish and poisoned groundwater used by thousands of people. On the literal day George W. Bush was sworn in, the investigation into that spill was halted. Chao had been announced as Secretary of Labor, which put her in charge of the Mine Safety and Health Administration. Alyssa, guess who got a fuckload of campaign contributions from Massey Energy?
Mitch McConnell?
Yeah, between 1990 and 2000, Mitch received more money from Massey than all but one other politician. And coal-related interests donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to the National Republican Senate Committee when Mitch was in charge.
But what about the water that the pond poisoned?
It's still poisoned, but
It's still
McConnell has
poisoned.
bragged about securing funds to clean it up.
Wow, he's the cause and solution to Kentucky's problems.
One of Mitch's particularly gross verbal jiggery-pokery is his tendency to equate giving money to politicians with having free speech.
A slimy sleight of hand that most of us remember from the Supreme Court's disastrous Citizens United ruling, which opened the floodgates to legalizing the dark money that is drowning the voices of regular Americans.
Actually, McConnell's greasy fingerprints are all over that, too. Remember how I mentioned John McCain's righteously bitchy outburst about McConnell's corruption during a debate about campaign finance reform? Well, unlike McCain's tobacco bill, the campaign finance reform bill passed and became law, basically choking off the supply of special interest money to federal political campaigns.
I wonder if there was a support group for him, Dark Money Lovers Anonymous.
Well, Mitch McConnell himself challenged the McCain-Feingold Act all the way up to the Supreme Court and lost. But Mitch McConnell is nothing if not a tenacious little fucking twerp. He and a gaggle of money interests, including the DeVos family, kept going after the law until that fight culminated with the Citizens United case. And we all know what happened then.
The darkest kind of chaos.
Citizens United, arguably one of the worst cases in Supreme Court history that has done more damage to American politics than most other judicial fuckery. Now let's get into McConnell's antics when he was Republican Senate leader during the Obama administration. Alyssa, I know you've got some personal experience here. Do you have any special memories of Mitch McConnell during the Obama White House years?
Oh, Aaron, just the memory of Mitch McConnell saying, quote, "The most important thing we, the Republicans, want to achieve is for President Obama to be a one-term president." I love when our elected officials are just rooting for America.
Thank
I
goodness
know,
he
right?
failed. Let's start with
Yeah, like with friends like you, who needs enemies?
how he turned the Senate into a constipated colon. Democrats had control of the Senate during the early years of the Obama White House, but that didn't keep McConnell, who was the minority leader at the time, from filibustering.
From destroying the country.
Fucking everything.
Yep.
McConnell believed that any bipartisanship at all from Republicans would help Obama win a second term, and so he refused to go along with anything. Even popular things, healthcare reform,
even things the Republicans wanted.
And through it all, McConnell managed to maintain a reputation for being boring as fuck. Here's former President Obama making some jokes at a White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Of course, even after I've done all this, some folks still don't think I spend enough time with Congress. Why don't you get a drink with Mitch McConnell, they ask. Really? Why don't you get a drink with Mitch McConnell?
Oh!
Back in the day, they could have shared a cig. Oh, wait. Right, keep forgetting. McConnell never smoked. He just wanted others to.
Cigarettes for thee, but not for me. McConnell unsuccessfully opposed the Supreme Court nominations of Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan, but he did.
Proof that he's Palpatine. I mean, he just really wanted to, he really, really wanted to, get all of these Kentucky people to smoke cigarettes so they'll die. He's like working for Satan.
Successfully oppose a lot of Obama's nominations to lower courts, creating a huge backlog by threatening to filibuster nominee after nominee. In 2013, Democrats eliminated the filibuster on all judicial nominees, except for the Supreme Court nominees, and of course, McConnell threw a fit. But in 2017, he would eliminate the filibuster, even for Supreme Court nominees himself, so that Trump nominee Neil Gorsuch could be confirmed. And then 2 years later, he wrote an op-ed against eliminating the filibuster for anything else.
Yep.
Okay, I guess it's time to talk about Merrick Garland.
Yeah, I suppose it is. Okay, in 2016, conservative Supreme Court Justice and former McConnell co-worker Antonin Scalia died at a luxury hunting ranch in Texas where he was up to totally normal and not weird at all stuff. Then President Barack Obama nominated moderate D.C. Circuit Court Judge Merrick Garland to replace Scalia. But McConnell made up a rule that presidents shouldn't get to pick Supreme Court justices during election years. And so the Senate held Garland's nomination until Donald Trump was inaugurated less than a year later.
And of course, Garland's failed nomination would have a cascadingly disastrous effect on the Supreme Court. Because of McConnell's obstructionism, Trump got 3 Supreme Court nominations instead of 2. And rather than having a 5-4 conservative majority on the court, we now have 6-3. There are some legal scholars who believe that if Garland's nomination had gone through, Roe v. Wade would still stand.
And, of course, McConnell's made-up rule that a president can't nominate a Supreme Court justice in an election year did not apply when Donald Trump barely waited until Ruth Bader Ginsburg was in the ground before nominating Amy Coney Barrett to replace her just weeks before the 2020 election.
McConnell was also on the wrong side of the Russian election interference thing.
Oh, yes. For somebody who is frequently touted as some kind of strategic savant, he's consistently one of the wrongest bitches in the game. In the summer of 2016, CIA Director John Brennan tried to brief McConnell on the urgent national security matter of Russian election interference. McConnell dodged him like a bad Tinder date, and when he finally allowed himself to find out what was going on, he threatened President Obama if Obama warned the American people about it. When Obama and leaders of the House and Senate finally decided to do something about this Russia thing by issuing some kind of warning, Mitch slow-walked the public warning, rewriting the letter warning the public in such a mucked-up way that it was totally unclear that A, it was the Russians targeting our elections, and B, they were targeting election equipment in all 50 states.
Whoopsie. This brings us to the Trump years. One thing that was semi-enjoyable about that time was witnessing how much Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump hated each other, but needed each other because both needed the money and the power that only the other could provide.
Because as Mitch McConnell is the sluttiest senator of all time, Donald Trump was the sluttiest president. Watching them try to work together was like watching a closeted youth pastor kiss his bride for the first time.
Like on TLC's short-lived reality show, Virgin Diaries.
And I know you watched that, Alyssa.
You know I did.
So under Trump, McConnell tried to balance keeping that sweet, sweet money flowing to him by not pissing off Trump's base too much, with keeping that sweet, sweet government open by not indulging the president's manic know-nothing fantasies about how things work. And he didn't totally succeed. McConnell was in charge of the Senate during the longest government shutdown in history, from late December 2018 until late January 2019. The standoff was over funds for President Trump's dumb border wall. During the shutdown, McConnell kept trying to play the obstructionism card by blocking appropriations bills, and in the process made just about everybody mad.
Legislative genius at work right there.
And throughout Trump's presidency, McConnell had many chances to protect the institutions he had once claimed to care about, but proved time and time again that he feared Trump's base getting mad at him more than he loved
Dumb
anything
border
else.
wall.
In 2017, he briefly grew a rubbery spine, condemning the white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, kind of.
That bar's so low that even a limbo world champion would have a hard time getting under it.
Yeah, McConnell took a lot of L's in 2017. In July of that year, McConnell was so very close to repealing the Affordable Care Act, but that attempt failed by one vote. His old pal John McCain, who killed McConnell's obstructionist dream with a cunty little thumbs down.
McConnell tried so hard to undo Obamacare and just failed over and over, thank God.
McConnell also fumbled the bag on COVID-19. On March 12, 2020, which you may recall was after President Trump had already declared a state of emergency as we faced the impending COVID pandemic, Mitch McConnell dismissed the Senate for a long weekend and flew back to Kentucky. What he should have done was...
It's funny that they were so nice to John McCain. I don't think I could be.
Something. What he did do was nothing.
What he did do is nothing.
When he decided to come back to work, McConnell tried to ram through a coronavirus relief bill that was little more than a handout or hand job, maybe, to big businesses. But that failed because several of Mitch's Republican colleagues were in quarantine at the time and couldn't vote.
Sorry, Mitch.
Some of the blame for the federal government's inept response to the early days of the pandemic lies squarely on Mitch McConnell's sloping shoulders.
And here's something that really bothers me about how Mitch McConnell fancies himself some kind of legislative genius or Darth Vader or some kind of brilliant mind.
I mean, he narrated the audiobook version of his own autobiography. I tried to find a good clip to play of it, but I kept falling asleep. How do you make
but I kept falling asleep. Oh my god. Watching these Karens score off these goddamn worthless Republicans is like the best content I've ever seen on YouTube. It's hilarious. And they're just like every single thing. It's not like they're even writing very well. They're just reading headlines. That's it. And it is hilarious. All the stupid stuff that this guy does is hilarious.
Out of the dismantling of the American experiment. So boring. Well, Mitch did it.
The place I feel most at ease is the Senate.
The Long Game, a memoir by Mitch McConnell. Hey, if you ever need, if you ever need like if you can't sleep, just do The Long Game by Senator Mitch McConnell.
Rewards patience and confounds those who lack it.
Aaron, hell is a road trip with only Mitch McConnell's self-narrated autobiography on the radio.
If Mitch McConnell is a genius legislator, my toddler throwing a fit and lying down in front of the front door is a genius at getting us out of the house in time. It is not some work of genius to be the guy who wrecks things. It is much easier to be an arsonist than it is to be an architect. But January 6th would prove to be a bridge too far for Mitch McConnell. On that day, as rioting Trump supporters closed in on the Capitol, McConnell delivered an 8-minute-long speech rebuking the stolen election delusion espoused by Trump and his stooges.
A rare moment where America could see their elected leaders come together, but LOL. Of course, in the weeks ahead, McConnell would not vote to impeach or convict Trump for his role as ringmaster of the insurrection. He could have barred...
No, they probably told him if you fight MAGA right here, we'll destroy you. They probably just full blown. They were like, we own the Republican Party, not you, and he does. Trump owned the Republican Party. He can easily destroy Mitch McConnell, no problem. And so, like, you know, and they were just like, my way or the highway, and that's what happens to turtles like Mitch. They get walked all over.
Trump from ever running for office again, but didn't because he's a big wimp.
Yeah, by the time Biden took office, it was clear that McConnell's most formidable sucking was behind him. He suffered some health setbacks, more than once freezing in the middle of public statements.
Please, never mind.
Being suddenly unable to speak, which has
Oh no, he had an Al Roker like fucking clone moment.
Prompted many people who have been personally
Oh no, you had an Al Roker fucking, he blanked out and his programming failed. Look, there it is. You see it? McConnell says he's fine after freezing during his news conference. Why does that all start to happen?
He suffered some health setbacks, more than once freezing in the middle of public statements.
I swear to God, it's because he's casting some kind of crazy spell on all of them. He's like channeling a Sith spell and using the Force, and it's costing him too much bandwidth.
Being suddenly unable to
Look at him, he's like casting a spell. It's fucking crazy.
Which has prompted many people who have
he's like moving and he's there. He's moving and he's there.
Harmed by Mitch McConnell's obstructionist antics.
But I think he fell asleep. He's so old. I think he fell asleep on his feet. But he understands that if he shows any weakness at all, they'll take his lead senator position. He's the lead of the House, and so he understands that if he's caught slipping like Biden, they'll force him out. And so he's fallen asleep on his feet, and his eyes are open. And I want to believe that he's having like an Al Roker clone moments, but honestly, no, I don't think this guy is a clone. I think he's a human being that's been twisted into a weird Sith, you know?
To refer to the Senate Minority Leader as...
And so, yeah, it's not. He did. He fell asleep on his feet, and he's so in control of this Senate that he can fall asleep on his feet and live through the live and then skate through.
Gently alive. But we would never do that.
No, we didn't come up with that. We're just repeating what we've heard.
Absolutely. When they go low, we take that as permission to also go low, because I am tired of getting my legs swept by the Cobra Kai that is the modern GOP. McConnell announced back in February he will not be running for re-election this year.
The Cobra Kai that is the modern GOP.
How unwell he seemed for a while makes sense. He leaves office the longest serving...
Oh, God. He like barely moves. You ever seen an evil man? They talk with their mouth, not their eyes. Watch.
Party leader in the history of the Senate. He will always be...
It's weird.
Remembered for destroying the Senate and pronouncing the silent H in the word white.
Au revoir, sayonara, and das vidanya. Little Russian for good measure.
Oh, I'm sure he understands. Since he's not up for re-election, he's taken some stances that have been seen as mildly
crazy
in opposition to Trump. Earlier this year on Face the Nation, he said that he still believes what he said in the aftermath of January 6th. That Trump should be held accountable by the courts and is not immune to prosecution. Attention, Supreme Court.
Extreme eye roll for anyone who shows courage when it is no longer useful.
And through it all, McConnell has done the near impossible, continued to get reelected over and over again despite remaining unlikable and unliked. Polling in 2012 and 2016 found that he had the lowest approval rating in his home state than
anybody's ever
had. During the Trump era, his popularity plummeted even further, making him the senator with the lowest approval rating
Everybody
from much of 2017 to 2019.
Everybody knows you're a Sith and you're Palpatine lie. You're not even good at that. Everybody knows you're Palpatine. You can't hide it. You're the lobby shill, and you're running the house, and you can't hide it. Everybody knows what you are. Demon banker.
With a brief stint in early 2019 as no longer the least popular senator. In 2020, Maine Senator Susan Collins overtook him for a while, but rest assured, when he finally slithers out of the U.S. Capitol for the last time, he will likely be one of the top 5 least liked members of the upper chamber, an all-timer.
Personally, I'm hoping that after Mitch is no longer with us, at least some of his dirty pile of money goes to his leftist daughter, who uses it to further an anti-Wall Street agenda.
Me too.
The circle of life.
The circle of life. It compels us all. Some Republican goes Sith and tries to kill us all. Their daughter becomes a liberal and shuts down Wall Street so that the fucking lobbies can't buy him anymore. And he dies of old age. Too old to lose the weight that he used to need to throw around that worthless hill that he filibustered for 65 years. And yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 5 weasels, what do you think?
Oh God, this one's like a 9. Yeah, he's like a 9. He's not Trumpian levels okay, if Trump is Vader, he's Palpatine. I'm sorry. If Trump is Palpatine, then this guy is like the nasty deck lieutenant that always responded to Vader's orders or some shit. This guy's like the tool that doesn't even have a name, really.
Aaron, I'm going to go with 3 weasels here. 3.
3.
Here is why. I think that what we have learned with Republicans, whether it be when John Boehner left, is there is so much worse to come. So I'm going to stick with 3 weasels for our friend Mitch.
Okay.
What about you?
I'm going to give him 4. I think he would have been a hard 5 during the Obama years.
Hard 5.
He's a little bit of a shell.
Yeah, he's like a shell of. He's like he's like the old decrepit Palpatine that's about to be thrown in the pit. He's not the younger like Palpatine that's trying to steal the Senate. You know, he's not like that anymore. He's definitely like the old decrepit Palpatine that's about to be thrown down the fucking pit. You know.
Was and he's 4. Also, we need some breathing room. We can't just all be 5s. Okay, that is all the time we have for this edition of This Fucking Guy.
If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends.
And if you've got suggestions for who should be the next fucking guy, leave them in the comments.
Yeah, this fucking guy. Oh my God.
Welcome to another episode of This Fucking Guy, the video series where we pick out a fucking guy making America worse and explain why they suck. I'm Erin Ryan, host of Crooked Media's Hysteria podcast.
And I'm Alyssa Mastromonaco, the other host of Crooked Media's Hysteria podcast.
On this episode, we're going to highlight the life and times of somebody who, I've become convinced, would have become a serial killer if they hadn't become one of the 9 most powerful people in America.
That's a bold statement, and in the spirit of the legal field, I know you're going to back it up.
So for legal reasons, let me clarify that I'm kind of joking here, but also, this guy's got everything, say a Ted Bundy or Ed Kemper might have. A history of abuse, an unstable family life, possible childhood pyromania, obsession with very weird pornography.
Because they're all sociopath, like weird Palpatine people. They're all like this. Something about it. I don't know why. They all like teenage hookers and stuff. They're such weird fucking people.
Really discusses at inappropriate times. And, you know, if you consider how many times he stood up for polluters, capital punishment, and guns, and against the lives of women while in a position of power, he's arguably got a higher body count than most American murderers. I'm speaking, as you might have surmised, about Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas.
Okay, I usually agree with you, but I think you're being a little unfair.
Wow.
No, he's probably given the chair to so many people, I bet.
Monaco, I never had you pegged as a Clarence Thomas defender.
The one thing watching a lot of Law & Order SVU has taught me is that serial killers are often charismatic, and our buddy Clarence here has the riz of a wet rock.
But you gotta watch out for the quiet ones, the silent but deadlies, if you will. Okay, so let's get started. Clarence was born into extreme poverty in a small town called Pinpoint in coastal...
I needed this wonderful, gentle mockery of these fucking guys. I needed this. Thank you. I like needed this. I needed this of these I needed this hilarious gentle ribbing of these fucking guys. I needed it.
Georgia, to a woman named Leola Williams, who was, at the time, shotgun married to the man who had gotten her pregnant in the 10th grade. Thomas's father would later divorce his mother and abandon the family to start another.
So the first thing that he did when he was 18 is he stole some dude's wife. How does an 18-year-old steal some dude's wife? That seems fucking crazy, and probably not for sex either. It's probably so she like does his dishes and cleans the house and shit. It's fucked up. These people are always so fucked up. They view women as like slaves, basically, chattel. you know? This is the first thing we hear about Clarence Thomas is when he was 18, he stole some dude's fucking wife. Like, what? I can't see my mouse, and it's so annoying. Where's my mouse? There it is.
Their family, when Thomas was only 2 and Leola was pregnant with her 3rd child. Only a few generations before that, Thomas's ancestors were enslaved people. Thomas's childhood was hardscrabble. He was raised in a shack by his custodial aunt, while his mother traveled to Savannah during the week to work as a domestic laborer. He says he was teased for having very dark skin by other black kids.
Yet another reason that bullying is bad. The kid you bully could grow up to take away your voting rights.
That would be a good anti-bullying campaign PSA. No more bullying. No more Clarences. But it's true, the bullying at the hands of his black peers seems formative in his life story. You subject somebody with malignant Machiavellian personality to cruelty during their formative years, give them a series of incredibly lucky breaks, and they're going to spend the rest of their lives trying to exact revenge on the people who remind them of the people they blamed for their torment. Reading up on Thomas, it seems like he blames his mother and not his father, who abandoned his family, on his bleak early life, which again feeds into why he'd one day grow up to apparently hate women, and specifically black women, so very much. But then Clarence's luck turns. The shack where he lives burns down, which turned out to be one of the first in his...
How does a fucking SCOTUS hate women? A SCOTUS! How the fuck does a SCOTUS hate women? What the fuck is that? Half of the goddamn race is women. What the fuck are you talking about? That's like saying you hate sunshine or the moon. And because half the day you see sun and half the day you see moon. So it's kind of like saying like half of your life you see like you see half the entire race, which is women. You come from a woman. And it's weird, like, how the fuck do you hate women? That's so fucking weird. That's like hating the sun or something. It's so stupid. It's like the level of stupid is like gobsmacking. It's like hating the sun or something like that, or water. It's like, no, you kind of need women. You kind of need women. You don't need them, but you need to not hate them. They take up 50% of the race. Not take up, but I mean, like, they comprise 50% of the fucking race. Like disliking them it's like disliking half the race. Like, that's got to be the most disqualifying thing I've ever heard about pretty much any fucking public citizen or public servant. Is honestly, yeah, like, if you're a misogynist, like truly deep down inside, really don't think you should be a SCOTUS because half of your clients are fucking women. Probably half of them are like women. So like half your clients are probably fucking women, probably abortion cases and stuff like this. It's fucked up. And you hate women. And you're a SCOTUS? You ever heard about how justice should be blind or anything like that? You're only a SCOTUS. You probably heard this once or twice. Probably saw a picture of a statue with a saying somewhere saying like justice is blind. You ever heard of this? It's a concept that we really cherish, is this idea that the judges are better people than us, that aren't swayed by stupid isms and bullshit. They see everybody the same and they take everybody on a case-by-case basis. But no, you give a SCOTUS, the highest, most powerful office in the motherfucking land, to a fucking misogynist who obviously deals with probably half his cases are women. And they probably all got fucked over. Oh my god. A SCOTUS who hates women. Come on, man. You fucking failure Republican pieces of shit. Your fucking shit smells so goddamn bad and you want to say it's sunshine. Nah, man. Your misogyny and your fucking racism and your fucking bigotry. Jesus fucking Christ. This is how we got Merrick fucking Garland, too.
Series of extremely lucky things to happen to Clarence Thomas.
He was lucky that his childhood home burned down?
Some accounts say that Thomas is 2 years...
Did he burn it down? I guarantee you he was the one who burned it down. He was the one who probably burned it down. Yeah, finish the story. It was probably him. He probably burned it down. Let's see. this dude, I've heard a lot of nasty things about this dude. And one thing I'm not going to believe is anybody else fucking burned that house down. I guarantee it was him. He was probably like 3 years old and he probably burned his house down because he didn't like it or some shit. Come on, man. Fucking sociopaths. What if your parents were inside that house? The fuck is that?
Brother and a cousin burned the shack down while Clarence and his sister were at school. Some omit a perpetrator entirely, saying just that the shack burned down. But others say that Thomas and his cousin burned the shack down.
Told you.
The most fun version of the story is that Clarence did it, but honestly, the reporting is a little fuzzy, and we'll probably never know the real truth.
Very
he burned
mysterious.
his family's home
maternal grandpa Myers and
when he was like 7. That's a man that you want running SCOTUS. Don't we fucking background check these fucking people? Do the Republicans fucking obfuscate it or some such? How do we not know about this guy? If I had heard these horror stories, I never would have wanted this guy on SCOTUS. What the fuck? Did we find this out later or what?
Anderson agreed to take in Leola's 2 sons, Clarence and his little brother. But Myers Anderson was a huge piece of shit who, like many pieces of shit, hated women and refused to take Clarence's sister Emma May. He only took in the boys. Now, some reporting said it was the mother who sent the boys to live with Myers. Regardless, Clarence was
So, his father abandons him, and then when he comes back in his life, he's like, "Yeah, I'll take only the boys." It's almost like a Family Guy joke or something. It's like almost it's almost Peter Griffin level of devious shithead. It's just you know.
an early beneficiary of sexist preference for male children.
That kind of upbringing could have demonstrated how bad misogyny is, but I'm guessing no lessons were learned.
Yeah, Myers Anderson was an abusive dickwad who didn't allow his grandsons to wear gloves when they worked on the family farm cutting sugarcane or butchering livestock.
Gross.
Unsanitary, but Myers had enough money to send his grandsons to private Catholic schools, which meant that by the time he was an adult, Clarence was both traumatized and entitled. What a great combo.
But wait, I thought I've heard Clarence talk about his past of going to all these bad schools and using it as a justification for not funding public schools. Quote, if I can go to the shittiest schools in America and become a Supreme Court justice, what's your excuse kind of stuff? Like Fit Mom. Remember Fit Mom?
Well, at least Fit Mom walked her silly stances back rather than becoming an activist judge, mandating every mother maintain six-pack abs. No, Clarence going to bad schools and being a bad student was another myth-making exaggeration. Thomas went to the best schools he possibly could have gone to. He thought he wanted to be a priest. He went to seminary for a year, reportedly overheard a white seminarian say he was glad that Martin Luther King Jr. had been shot. And then Clarence decided that seminary school was not for him. At this point, his grandpa, disappointed that his beneficiary was not going to continue on, cut him off, which meant Clarence had to work his way through the College of the Holy Cross in Boston. At the College of Holy Cross, Thomas was actually kind of groovy. He had a poster of Malcolm X displayed in his dorm room.
What?
Spearheaded a black-led protest against racism on campus, attended anti-war marches.
Comrade Clarence!
He also got into black nationalism because he believed that the fucked up family structure that produced him, domineering father figure with absolute power and control over the other people in his house, should be replicated ad infinitum in American culture. While at Holy Cross, he met a young lady named Kathy Ambush. The two fell in love and got married in 1971, the same year Clarence graduated from college. The two had a son who is now 50 years old. Not only did Clarence have a pre-Ginny wife, he was married to her for 13 years, and she's basically invisible from the public record. Clarence's personal life pre-Ginny was, shall we say, untidy, but we'll revisit that in a second. Clarence graduated 9th in his class and attended Yale Law, and in continuing his grand tradition of hating every single rung on his ladder to success, he later put a 15-cent sticker on his law school diploma. That's because after he graduated, he didn't get any job offers for private sector law firms like he wanted, and decided it must have been because the private sector law firms suspected that he was a beneficiary of affirmative action. But rather than acknowledge that it could have been straight up racism, or perhaps his bad personality, or perhaps some combination of both that prevented him from skating into the next phase of his life, Clarence assigned blame to the wrong place. And he'd devote at least a portion of his career trying to make sure that no other kids with his background would ever have the opportunities that he had.
Whoa, by
What?
pulling up the ladder to a historic degree, is Clarence Thomas doing his part to prevent the existence of future Clarence Thomases?
That is some mind-bending shit. His private sector dreams dashed, Thomas went to work for Missouri's Republican Attorney General John Danforth. He was the only black person working in that office. He left that job to be an in-house attorney for a little misery merchant known as Monsanto, hated it, and went back to Danforth after Danforth's election to the Senate. This brings us to Clarence's convenient and ultimately very profitable pivot to the right. You see, Clarence made it to Washington, D.C. a little before Ronald Reagan did, and it was a really good time in the late 1970s to become an entry-level professional token for hire, thanks in part to a poem written by journalist Juan Williams that got Reagan administration officials' attention. Clarence swore up and down that he would never take a position in government that had anything to do with civil rights, but then accepted a nomination as Ronald Reagan's Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights at the Department of Education, and later as head of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC.
Yeah, but that's the placeholder job that we're gonna give you while we groom you for SCOTUS. What did you say in public? And he's like, yeah, I said I would never work for civil rights or whatever. And they're like, well, tough titty, because that's the only job we're willing to give you. So you're just gonna act like you didn't say that, because this is the job we're willing to give you. If you want this, you're going to have to do this. And he's like, really? Yeah, I kind of told him I wouldn't be a civil rights person because I don't really believe in civil rights or whatever. And you know, I'm a Republican or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we know you're a Republican. That's why we want you. Oh, my God.
Clarence Thomas was one of the only black people who thought Ronald Reagan was cool, and Reagan desperately needed somebody like Thomas in his administration to assuage the fears of white people who wanted permission to support Reagan without being seen as racists, even though many of them were in fact racists.
Oh dear, so this is where
we're
to
in
harken
fact
back
racist.
to the MTV Real World tagline, people stop being polite and start getting real vibes kick in.
Yeah, Thomas gladly accepted the role of permission slip in the Reagan administration, even though the financial woes that would plague him throughout the 1970s would continue into the 80s. He and Kathy got divorced. During this time, his drinking was becoming a problem, he admitted in his autobiography. Still, that didn't keep him from his single-minded pursuit of profit and power. Now, remember how I said that Clarence Thomas has a history of lying about his past? He's also lied about his own family when it was convenient for him. According to a 1987 Atlantic profile of Thomas, in late 1980, a young Thomas told a conference of black conservatives that his now grown sister Emma May had become what would later in the decade be characterized as a, quote, welfare queen. This is what Thomas said, quote, she gets mad when the mailman is late with her welfare check. That's how dependent she is. What's worse is that now her kids feel entitled to the check too. They have no motivation for doing better or getting out of that situation.
I hope his sister had something to say about this, Aaron, because if my sis talked that level of smack about me at a convention, we would absolutely not be doing our rendition of Sisters from White Christmas.
Well, years later, when Thomas was being considered for the Supreme Court nomination, the Washington Post's Karen Tumulty tracked down Emma May, who tells it a little differently. While her brother was attending law school at Yale and gearing up for a life of lapping out of Harlan Crow's ample trough, Emma May was working 2 jobs and raising 4 children on her own. She quit both of them to care for an elderly aunt after the aunt had a stroke. And the welfare checks that Thomas claimed the sister was dependent on barely covered utilities. And finally, Emma May was not a lifelong dependent on the system. She was only on government assistance for 4 or 5 years.
Okay, so it sounds like by the mid-1980s, Thomas was an ascendant Republican star on account of the fact that he was one of very few black Republicans whose whole personality was based on openly disdaining the fact that black people were ever granted opportunities, in part because they were black.
Yeah, that's about it. And he had ongoing financial problems and a strong desire for revenge. As head of the EEOC, his credit was so bad that when he traveled, he needed to be booked in hotels that accepted cash payments because he didn't qualify for credit cards.
24-year-old Alyssa can relate.
Conservative activist and pioneering Karen Virginia Lamp met Clarence Thomas in the mid-1980s. As Clarence tells it, when he was at his lowest, despite being a high-ranking Reagan administration official. Ginny Lamp was the child of a couple of right-wing lunatics from outside Omaha, Nebraska, and proudly carried on her family's lunatic tradition through her weird childhood and into adulthood. Clarence and Ginny, in a setup Satan himself would envy, met at an anti-affirmative action roundtable.
Oh my God!
Ginny offered to set Clarence up with some of her, quote, black female friends.
Oh my God! They met in an anti-affirmative action thing. He's a black SCOTUS. Oh my God! Listening to these foul Republicans and their fucking lies.
Are the black female friends in the room with us now, Ginny?
After Clarence got over the fact that he was personally uncomfortable with interracial relationships, Clarence and Ginny's horror novel romance kicked off, and the two were married in 1987.
Horror novel
we could do
romance.
an entire episode on the barfgasm that is their marriage, but for now, I'll leave you with this excerpt from a 2021 New York Magazine profile on the Nightmare couple. Quote, "Every year it gets better," Ginny told a gathering of Turning Point USA-oriented youths in 2016. "He put me on a pedestal in a way I didn't even know was possible." Clarence had recently gifted her a Pandora charm bracelet. "It has everything I love," she said. "All these love things and knots and ropes and things about our faith and things about our home and things about the country. But my favorite is that there's a little pixie, like I'm kind of a pixie to him, kind of a troublemaker."
Doesn't love things and knots and ropes, Erin.
Things and knots and ropes. Romance. This would mark the first and last time that anyone referred to white nationalist hag Ginny Thomas as a pixie. So in 1989, despite the fact that he was, by that point, more a bureaucrat than a lawyer, George H.W. Bush nominated Thomas to a spot on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, which is objectively insane.
It
Trumpian
is.
Even. Clarence was confirmed to the federal bench in 1990, and only a year later, the original George Bush nominated Clarence Thomas to replace Thurgood
Hey, it's Daddy Killer, the New World Order.
Marshall on the Supreme Court. I cannot begin to explain what an enormous insult this was. Thomas was 43 years old and basically got the nomination because he was, once again, conveniently one of the only black Republicans even remotely in a position to justify a nomination to the Supreme Court.
Just as a quick footnote here, I'd like to add that by the time Thurgood Marshall was nominated to the Supreme Court, he had authored 98 majority opinions, none of which was reversed by the Supreme Court. Just saying.
The worst part is that if Justice Marshall had just hung on for another 18 months, his replacement would have been picked by Bill Clinton and not George H.W. Bush. Marshall seems to have had an inkling that his replacement would be a sloppily selected hack job on the part of Bush. Check out this clip of Marshall just 3 days before Thomas's nomination went public.
Do you think President Bush has any kind of an obligation to name a minority candidate for your job?
I don't think that should be a ploy. And I don't think it should be used as an excuse one way or the other.
An excuse for what, Justice?
Doing wrong.
Marshall, when did you tell
I
President...
mean, for picking the wrong Negro and said, I'm picking him because he's a Negro. I'm opposed to that.
I think he knew.
Think he knew. Okay, so now we arrive at Clarence Thomas's confirmation hearings, which I actually remember thinking were a sham while they were happening. I was a child.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think about just how close we were to not having Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and what incredible shit luck led to him actually being confirmed, knowing what we know now.
So the confirmation hearings started in September 1991 with the Senate Judiciary Committee led by one Joseph R. Biden heading up the proceedings. Oh, Gonna have to do this part through my fingers like a horror movie.
Because Thomas was a partisan bureaucrat and not a judge, the senators had very little to go on when it came to how he'd rule. They tried to get him to talk about abortion because even back then, liberals and progressives were rightfully worried that conservatives had Roe v. Wade in their sights. But Thomas said he'd never really thought about the issue since he was done with his con law class before Roe v. Wade was even handed down. It was also during this first part of his confirmation hearing that he really leaned into the legend of poor Clarence he's trotted out every time his qualifications or intentions were brought into question. The way he told it, he was too busy worrying about paying his own bills to think about abortion back in the 1970s and 80s. His judicial record was so thin that the committee couldn't agree on Thomas, and his nomination proceeded to the full Senate on a 7-7 committee vote, which meant he was officially without recommendation.
That checks.
And that's before the Anita Hill news even broke. While it might have seemed like it to the average American, it wasn't like Anita Hill came out of nowhere. People in Washington had heard rumblings that Clarence Thomas had harassed the former fellow EEOC staffer since that summer. Meanwhile, Democratic senators and staffers started quietly raising a stink about the charges.
And also, meanwhile, Anita Hill, another black Yale Law graduate, had already been approached about going public about the harassment she faced at the hands of Thomas, but was reluctant to for reasons that we all know were completely understandable. During this time, Joe Biden gave a statement to the press referencing Thomas's character, which hadn't been an issue during the hearings, which NPR reporter Nina Totenberg, a very important player in the Anita Hill saga, found strange, and she began to look into things.
Biden, being the D.C. rule follower that he was, approached the George H.W. Bush White House to ask them for permission to open an FBI investigation into the allegations, which the administration granted. Biden also called Clarence Thomas personally to let him know what was going on. According to a New York Magazine piece from 2021, Clarence held the phone up during that call so Ginny could hear too. In a move that will shock nobody, the FBI conducted a 3-day investigation into the allegations and concluded they were unfounded.
However, Nina Totenberg was on the case, and on October 6th, just days
Go
before
Nina
Thomas's nomination
Totenberg.
was to go before the full Senate for a vote, she broke the story of Anita Hill's
Nina
alleged harassment at the hands of
Totenberg.
Clarence Thomas.
And here's where this becomes the story of Democrats snatching defeat from the jaws of victory to hand one of the least qualified, pervious, most revenge-obsessed fringe freaks a lifetime appointment to the U.S. Supreme Court.
First of all, Democrats had a majority in the Senate at the time. The final vote on Thomas was scheduled to happen on October 8th, but Republicans knew at that point they didn't have the votes to confirm Thomas. And so Democrats allowed another round of committee hearings to get to the bottom of whether or not Thomas was an office sex pest and whether or not that mattered.
They basically handed Republicans a mulligan. Thomas got to testify in his redo first, characterizing the accusations as a, quote, high-tech lynching, and said some other over-the-top nonsense.
When any person in this free country would be subjected to this. This is not a closed room. There was an FBI investigation. This is not an opportunity to talk about difficult matters privately or in a closed environment. This is a circus. It's a national disgrace.
Yeah, I would say it is. Why are we here?
As a black American, as far as I'm concerned, it is a high-tech lynching for uppity blacks.
Alyssa, you catching Jenny mean mugging in the background?
I see her laser eyes.
Laser eyes.
I have to tell you about this game-changing product I use before a night out.
Well, I missed it.
For uppity blacks.
Alyssa, you...
And from my standpoint, as a black American, as far as I'm concerned, it is a high-tech lynching for uppity blacks.
Alyssa, you catching Jenny mean mugging in the background?
I see her laser eyes.
Laser eyes.
I have to tell you about this game-changing product I use before a night out. With drinks, it's called Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Z-Biotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel your best tomorrow.
10 gold
ago,
a piece.
I was invited to a dinner party on a Tuesday night, which you guys stresses me out because I record Hysteria on Wednesday mornings. But you know what I did? Took Z-Biotics, went to the dinner party, had my glass and a half of wine, and you guys didn't even know the difference because I brought my A game to the show the next day. So 4th of July weekend is right around the corner, so stock up on pre-alcohol now for all your summer barbecues, vacations, and next day responsibilities. Go to zbiotics.com/guy to get 15% off your first order when you use GUY at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/guy and use code GUY at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and our good times.
When Hill appeared before the committee, which at the time consisted of 14 white men, great optics guys, she accused Thomas of being a real fucking weirdo. He asked her out repeatedly. He bullied her to give him reasons that she kept saying no. He would talk extensively about his porn proclivities. Apparently, he was into bestiality, and a performer named Long Dong Silver. And also the story of a pube left on a can of Coke.
The incident involved getting up from a work table, going to his desk, looking at this can and saying, "Who put pubic hair on my Coke?"
For the record, what substance did he bring up in this instance at EEOC in his office? What was the content of what he said?
Well, this was a reference to an individual who had a very large penis, and he used the name that he had been referred to in the pornographic material. The name that was referred to was Long Dong Silver.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so Aaron, you have to understand, I was in high school. We watched this in real time. The Long Dong Silver jokes were rampant. And this
Long
is
Dong Silver.
not America's finest fucking moment.
Watching it
No,
now, it's kind of astonishing
It's a Republican, of
how
course not.
absurd the questions they asked of her were.
Thomas liked to discuss specific sex acts and frequency of sex, close quote. You said you took it to mean Judge Thomas wanted to have sex with you, but in fact, he never did ask you to have sex, correct?
No, he did not ask me to have sex. He did continually pressure me to go out with him, continually, and he would not accept my explanation as one as being valid.
So that when you said you took it to mean we ought to have sex, that was an inference, a mere allegation.
Senator, I would suggest to you that for me, these are more than mere allegations. These are the truth to me. These comments are the truth to me.
God, we owe her an apology.
So many apologies. In the end, it wasn't a high-tech lynching, but it did resemble something else, a witch burning. Biden would later go on to apologize to Hill for the way he handled things, but yikes, dude, talk about too little, too late. I don't want to heap shit on Joe Biden, though. Just about everybody on that committee showed their whole ass during those redo hearings.
Thomas was eventually confirmed by a 52 to 48 vote, historically narrow. 11 Democrats voted to confirm him.
Oh boy.
What the fuck? He was sworn in to the Supreme Court on October 23rd, 1991. Now, Anita Hill was the only person who testified that Clarence Thomas had sexually harassed her during his confirmation hearings, but she wasn't the only woman who had corroborated Hill's story to the Democratic members of the Judiciary Committee. There were 4 witnesses who were prepared to testify during the hearings who weren't called. One of them, Angela Wright, said that Thomas had harassed her too, asked her bra size, also at the EEOC. She never testified. Their written affidavits are in the congressional record, and they are unrebutted. And reporting in subsequent years has only made Hill's claims seem like they're more likely to have happened than not happened. For example, a 1994 book by revered journalists Jane Mayer and Jill Abramson called Strange Justice, what a great title, went deep into Thomas's creepy obsession with consuming and discussing extreme pornography in wholly inappropriate settings. Like, for example, a Yale classmate told the authors that Thomas carried weird porn around in the pocket of his overalls. Why are you wearing overalls at Yale
So many
Law?
weird things. So many weird things.
I can't wrap my head around that visual.
Yeah, how do you go to Yale Law with overalls? What?
College classmate told the authors that Thomas had used sexual language so crude It could reduce normal people to tears. A guy who owned a naughty video store in D.C. recalled that, yes, Clarence had, in fact, been into an adult performer named Long Dong Silver. And another guy who knew Clarence backed this up. He would allegedly describe rape-themed pornography to anyone who would listen at work.
Okay, we don't need Olivia Benson to tell us that's some serial killer shit.
But the hits don't stop there. In a 2020 piece for New York Magazine, Jill Abramson lays out the case for impeaching Clarence Thomas, going over numerous ignored credible accusations surrounding the justice. An attorney named Moira Smith alleged back in 2016 that when she was 24 years old in 1999 at a dinner party at Clarence Thomas's house, she was warned not to sit next to the justice. He groped her while she was setting the table anyway. And again, later in the evening, a reporter followed up on the allegations, printing a deeply sourced story on them on October 27th of that year.
I have no memory of that story breaking.
That's because this was October 2016, and the story was published pretty much at the exact same time as James Comey announced that he was reopening the probe into Hillary Clinton's emails.
Fucking James Comey. Every day there is a new reason to hate that guy.
Fucking
Abramson
guy.
also uncovered a pattern of Thomas talking about his weird porn habits with his female colleagues at the EEOC, just like Hill said. At least 7 other individuals who weren't contacted to testify during the Thomas hearings went on the record stating that, yeah, Thomas was a creepy motherfucker.
Good lesson. If you're ever being sexually harassed at work, remember you are almost certainly not the only one.
Absolutely. Power in numbers. Clarence Thomas's ex-girlfriend, a woman named Lillian McEwen, told a Washington Post reporter that she was surprised that nobody from the Senate Judiciary Committee had contacted her about testifying. Around the time of the hearings, she'd even written Joe Biden a letter claiming she had personal knowledge of Thomas, but heard not a peep back. Plenty of friends and colleagues, many of them who agreed to be named, corroborated Hill's testimony. The problem was that nobody cared enough to do a thorough job when it mattered. As soon as he was sworn into his post on the Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas stapled himself to conservative Justice Antonin Scalia's hairy ass, voting the exact same way that Scalia did 92% of the time. He was so off-putting that he motivated Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, a Reagan appointee, to move to the left.
Now, it's important to note that Thomas is a constitutional originalist, which means that by his own legal reasoning, he, as a black man, should not be considered a full U.S. citizen entitled to the same rights as white property owners, because the framers of the Constitution would never have intended it that way.
Thomas, to add a cherry to that shit sundae, also believes that the courts should not be bound to follow precedent if he doesn't like the precedent. That gives him a lot of leeway in opposing, in his legal writings, such long-standing precedent as Lawrence v. Texas, in which the court decriminalized sodomy.
Weird that a guy who is so into animal and rape porn would be so obsessed with letting states make sodomy illegal again. What would become of his beloved pornography?
He would have to have a billionaire get it for him, I guess. Thomas has also written that the New York Times v. Sullivan, the 1964 First Amendment case, which established a high bar when it comes to public figures suing press outlets for defamation, might be on the chopping block if he had his way. And Gideon v. Wainwright, the 1963 case, which established that defendants who cannot afford their own attorney are entitled to one provided by the state. He has been on the evil side of just about every issue, almost always siding with police brutality, states that wish to carry out capital punishment, polluters who want to pollute more because it means they get to make more money. He votes to take away rights from women, to gut voting rights for everybody, to grant nearly unfettered power to sources of dark money who wish to donate unlimited amounts to politicians and their political causes without having their identities ever available to the public. He's written that the Affordable Care Act is completely unconstitutional. He's been horny to pretend that the framers of the Constitution meant for every American to have an individual right to carry guns around all over the place. And in 2022's Bruin case, he got the opportunity to do exactly that. And he seems to take a sick joy in hurting people. In the case of Students for Fair Admission versus Harvard, which struck down race-based consideration in college admissions, he read his concurring opinion from the bench, something that many legal writers at the time noted was unusual.
A man whose career was brought to you almost entirely by affirmative action. What a prick. It'd be like if John Wayne Gacy had tried to make clowns illegal.
That would have been funny. Sometimes Thomas even uses things that aren't even laws to justify his outlandish legal positions. Like in his dissent for Obergefell v. Hedges, the case that made same-sex marriage legal nationwide, he quoted the Declaration of Independence, the Magna Carta, which, while a legal document, is like not a law here in America, John Locke, and something made up called natural law. But you don't need to take our word for it. There are respected legal scholars out there who believe Clarence Thomas is among the worst, if not the worst, Supreme Court Justice ever.
I'm Leah Littman, one of the hosts of Strict Scrutiny, here to talk to you about one of Justice Thomas's worst opinions, and that's Shin versus Ramirez, which might be a case you've never heard of. So in that case, Justice Thomas, writing for a majority of the court, held that it is illegal for a federal court to even consider evidence of your innocence, evidence that you're innocent of the crime you were convicted and sentenced to death for, if that evidence of your innocence never was introduced because the state appointed you multiple ineffective lawyers who never introduced evidence of your innocence. So the decision basically makes it illegal for federal courts to do anything when innocent people are sentenced to death. If that sounds wild, it is, but some of Justice Thomas's even wilder writings have come in separate writings rather than opinions for the court because he often can't get 5 justices to sign on to some of his more unhinged takes. Like when the court overruled Roe versus Wade, he wrote separately to say, hey, let's also overrule marriage equality, as well as the decisions protecting the right to contraception. So Justice Thomas's body of work contains more than a few of these gems.
For a more in-depth rundown of the GOAT rodeo that is the American legal system, tune into Strict Scrutiny's brand new YouTube channel.
Love those ladies.
In the Olympic tumbling gym that is Clarence Thomas's brain, the only thing that matters is the Constitution, which just so happens to mean exactly what the billionaires who bankrolled Clarence Thomas want it to mean. Clarence Thomas is the dream Supreme Court justice for the billionaire fringe trying to steer America off a cliff because he doesn't care about the truth, logical consistency, or ethics. And apart from his nightmare boss antics, nowhere does his disregard for ethics show itself than in how nakedly, whorishly money-hungry he is.
Yeah, and despite his efforts to position himself among Washington's elite...
Okay, guys, I'm terribly sorry. I don't normally kick out this early, but I'm rather tired, and I am hungover from yesterday, and I'm going to embrace the idea that I'm tired and hungover from yesterday, and would like to go to bed. And so I'm going to... Excuse me. You have been watching Skycat Live. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for hanging out with me. Come to Twitch or come to skycat.live and come to my Twitch or my YouTube and give me a like, sub, or a follow. And come click on the cat space to donate. This video was recorded in its entirety. It will be placed on this channel now. And it will be up on my channel over the next day. If you want to see something else that I did, or you want to make fun of me or whatever, excuse me, go right ahead. And that's all I have for you today, guys. I'll be back here in about 10 hours and we'll do some more. And thank you so much. I love you guys. This 11-hour, 45-minute session is ending. It will be placed on my YouTube. Come to my YouTube. Got a lot of thousands of videos there and stuff. And thank you so much for your time. It's good to see you guys. I'll catch you tomorrow. And thank you. Take care.